regular selectmen's meeting of June 4th, right? To order. And we will start with privilege of the floor. So, got any questions or anything you'd like to bring up? No?
I was just here to give a brief summary, answer any questions about the pedestrian village study that's going on.
Okay.
The only thing I brought along is a few copies of our kind of revised timeline.
Okay.
Isn't anything major. Pass those along. A few copies there. We were pretty much right on track with the initial plan. All of the, I'd say 95% of the stakeholder interviews have been completed. I think there are still 2 that are outstanding. But those were covered over the first few weeks pretty well and thoroughly. The survey's out and about. We're hoping to have that wrapped up by the 20th of June. It went out May 18th initially.
Mm-hmm.
And just said we've had the 300 responses as of today. And it just put another little nudge out to the lodges to help get those out to their guest lists. I guess the Mountain had sent it out last week to their pass holder email list. So
Okay.
they're in the loop.
And the time frame for, Mike had asked, the time frame for the surveys to remain out, is it a couple more months?
No, this survey's through the 20th of
Oh,
June.
through the 20th.
And then
20th of
the
June,
yeah,
right.
second
There is
survey
another survey.
coming up in August.
And are we I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Are we getting any feedback as to the 300? What kind of mix have we gotten? Is it mostly property owners? Is it
Yeah, the
or residents?
initial breakdown I saw was for like the first 250, and it was out of the 250, it was 217 were property owners. So that's why we wanted to
Yeah.
really push the law.
And do we classify between property owners and residents?
Yes. Yes.
That was the question I was kind of asking. I think it's probably mostly going to be property owners. But are we seeing more residents?
No, more. I think I'm trying to
More
remember,
out of, if I remember correctly, it was the majority of them, over 50% were from absent property owners,
Yeah.
non-resident.
Non-resident property
Okay.
owners. Yeah.
So,
I'm
yeah.
thinking it was like 20 to 30% were full-time residents, but it might have even been less than that.
Okay.
And all of that, once the numbers are crunched at the end, that's when we'll really be able to disseminate it. It's sort of, since it's still rolling in, we're getting updates from SE Group, but we haven't really gotten it out to the wider community yet because it's changing. And hopefully we'll get more of that transient guest, because I think that's a really important part of what we're trying to capture. When Mark Kane was here over the Chowder Fest, I think it was the 25th of May, he was pretty excited about the number of people. Just the town square was packed, and he felt like he really was able to plug into a lot of folks who hadn't really heard of, a whole different perspective, because they're there for the weekend or they're there just passing through, and that's really important for us to get that perspective as well.
Okay, good.
The only other skew that I saw was age. Most of the respondents were over 45.
Yes.
Well,
So,
I mean,
and
there
that's gonna
probably
happen.
aren't very many property owners that are under 45.
No,
Yeah.
Right.
but I mean, that's the other, major group
Right.
that we want to go, especially the later one, right? The later survey, try to.
Yeah.
Now,
get
is
that
it,
age spread
you're
a
looking
little
for
more.
one survey per person or one survey per family or
Theoretically, it's open per person.
per person? Okay.
We'd, be happy to get feedback to figure if there's a 18-year-old kid in the household versus there's
Right.
something parent. It'd be a whole different perspective, and that'd be wonderful to hear.
Okay.
So yeah, it's mostly just begging everyone for their opinion.
Okay. Is there anything you would like the selectmen to do or?
I guess any help that you can do, maybe a little boost on the website, just say, don't forget,
Right.
get in.
Can we put a
survey.
message on the website or something? If you haven't filled out your survey, please remember to do so.
Yeah, that'd be super. 'Cause
Yeah.
we'll wanna-
Maybe, is there a link on there to
I
There
think there
is.
is a link.
Right?
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
There is.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah, and another really neat thing that Mark Kane had shared with us, just one example, was they're doing these word graphics from both the interviews and from the surveys, where if there are words that they basically fill into their program, the words that come up during the interview
Okay.
or during
Yeah.
the survey. And the graphics come out with the more frequently mentioned words coming out larger and different colors. And so it's a really neat graphic to see. We had only, you sent one in an email, which looked, so he's going to be compiling those as well. So you get the words that are just popping out.
So what words are popping out? Since
Well, shockingly, I think it was parking, and summer was a big one. Lighting. Some of them are a little predictable, but like I said, a lot of these were from the stakeholder interviews, where we kind of had a little familiarity with what people's issues were already, I think, in the group. So we keep looking forward to getting more other opinions. So anyone you know who's coming through for the weekend, even hadn't been
Okay.
here before, get them to do the survey.
Sure,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, we'll put some on the website and we'll take a look at what else we can do to create some publicity around it,
That'd be
and
great.
get people to fill it out. Okay,
Super.
great.
But yeah, just
I
wanna-
appreciate your taking the time to come on in and fill us
Sure
in.
thing.
Yeah, all
Any
right.
other questions or anything?
No, do you have any other
no,
questions?
thanks, Wendy. Appreciate
No,
it.
thank you very
Also,
much.
all the effort you're doing besides coming in and
Oh,
seeing
yeah.
us. Thanks.
So,
One project.
go ahead, yeah.
All right.
I'd like to introduce Christine if I could.
Sure.
Before
Oh,
we
absolutely. I was
get
going to
to-
ask who she was.
This is this is Christine Sterner. She's our new assistant director at the recreation department.
Oh, okay.
Started
Hi,
a couple of
Christine.
weeks
Yeah.
ago.
All right.
And getting ready, working with Rachel's at the rec right now. So Christine took a moment and came over and just to say hi and meet all of you. This is the Board of Selectmen. Margaret, Bill, Mike.
All right.
Nice to
meet you.
Good.
Nice to meet you as well.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you.
Welcome
Right.
to our community.
Yeah, I hope you have fun. I mean,
It's
yeah.
been great. It's been very, very busy.
Yeah.
A lot going on over there.
Started just before the fishing derby.
Right,
so.
right. So
Right.
we haven't stopped really.
Well, there are periods at the time where it's a little slower than others.
Rest of the staff will be coming in on the 16th for the summer camps and
Okay.
summer programs. And the first week of those programs are on the 23rd. So we'll be getting going here in the next couple of weeks
Okay,
with the full staff.
terrific. Thank
Any
you.
Questions or,
No?
okay?
Any, Margaret, any questions? No?
I
Christine?
met Christine.
Oh, you have, right, yes.
That's right, during the interview process.
So that's how she knew you were Margaret, between the three of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll sneak out and do my brief.
That's all right, welcome
Yeah.
aboard,
Take
right,
care.
thank you. Why don't we, is there any other privilege of the floor at this stage? No, okay. Let's go through the minutes and financial update, then we'll change the order a little bit.
Okay.
So that we can handle Chris, so he doesn't have to
Thanks,
sit here
Wendy.
through all this dull stuff.
Okay.
Minutes
Minutes.
of the meeting of May 14th, any changes?
Yeah, I've got a couple.
Okay.
I had a couple and I had a question while Jim's here. Jim, we talked about, we lost a flashboard right before Memorial Day, then we lost another one directly before. Remember we had one
A
down?
couple of weeks before.
Then we felt,
Yeah.
and a couple of days before. What caused the one to fail right before Memorial Day? Something?
Unanticipated rain.
Yeah, it was just-
Oh, it failed the way it's supposed to fail.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
it broke.
Okay, I just
Oh,
We
didn't
had the
remember that
wood
much
hit
rain.
it. The first
Yeah.
time the wood hit it, and then the second time was just.
Yeah, okay, I just don't remember the rain, so that's why I was confused as to why it failed.
Well,
Okay.
rained way up there really hard. Trust me.
All
Yeah.
right, so how
'Cause it didn't
long,
rain that hard here in town.
No.
No.
That's
no,
why I was-
it's in
that's
the
why-
upper streets. Okay.
how long does it take us to refill after an incident where a board blows out?
Get that pond back up to 3 feet, depending upon what's coming down Snow's Brook, of course.
Yeah,
Take day and a half.
okay, so it's not a significant amount of time. All right, thanks.
You know, as long as we don't have like an August episode where we get August
Yeah.
flows coming out.
Yeah.
It'll be a lot longer.
All right.
Okay. Any other changes?
Yeah, I've got it.
Yeah,
In
go
the
ahead.
sign permit application, page 3 of 5, paragraph sign permit.
Yeah.
My question was, the Fortons want to put up a sign, faces Lost Pass Road. In the past, the board only approved signs once construction began and the sign had to be moved once construction was completed.
Yes.
My question was, I thought it was once permitting was
No,
completed.
it's the completion of the
But was it-
construction.
Okay,
When
so
the deliveries, because we've used that as a delivery
Okay, so
sign.
it didn't come up at permitting, it was at the
No.
beginning of construction.
Right, which is basically
Is that right,
when
Chris?
when the certificate of occupancy
Right.
was issued.
What?
Yeah.
What we're talking about here is that the contractors are allowed to put up a sign,
Right,
essentially saying, I'm the contractor on this project.
correct.
And when the project's done, generally they
It
take
comes
those
down.
signs down.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I just that was a question. And on old business land issues, less contract Forest Service waiting for Lynch and the dialogue to begin, shouldn't that be Brock's? Page 4 of 5, top second, first line in.
Yes.
Could we change that to Brock's from Lynch, please? And number 9, correspondence, second line in, PSU letter regarding Chris Noyes.
Oh,
I thought maybe he had a
Sorry.
relative who had filled in for him.
Well, maybe he uses an alias for these meetings because. Okay, and the last thing on number 9 in correspondence, did I have a brain freeze? Do I remember seeing the letters that we sent out to the legislators?
No, I had them with me.
Okay, so we didn't see it.
I
Okay.
did not put them in your packet.
All right, because
I
it
had 'em
says
with me.
the town manager showed the board response letters.
Yeah, I had them and I
But
think
we,
I held them.
but we did send them. The response letters, right.
We sent the letters, the
And
legislative
later
delegation
responded back.
back to
I
us.
thought we did see those.
I had them and I
Right,
showed them
yeah,
to you.
Oh,
okay.
I didn't see them. Okay, that's all right.
Okay.
All right, no,
I have them upstairs if you.
no, that's fine. I just wanted to just make sure I didn't go out
Right.
of consciousness for a few minutes.
No.
All right, I'm all set.
So I'll make a motion then to approve the minutes as amended. Margaret, did you have anything else?
I wasn't
I
here.
know you
Oh.
were, yeah.
So I guess it's up to me to second it.
The
Yeah,
two
all
of you.
right. All those in Aye. Okay. Well, Chris, if it's all right, we'll take you next, and so that we can kind of move you out of here, right? So you don't have to
Whatever.
sit through. Yeah.
I got time.
Okay.
I did bring a copy, and I apologize, maybe I might need more copies. Of the just I had John Carpenter was going to come, the CFO, but
Yeah.
he's got a really bad back, so he came in, pulled this out of our accounting system for us just to break it down to a net result. The main purpose there being, I know there were some questions about depreciation and how we account for that in our line items and whatnot, but.
Mike, do you want one of these for the VRA?
Sure. Yeah, sorry, I can.
Here.
Is that okay? I don't know how to do that. Yeah, that'd be great. If I can make a bunch, I suppose. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, one of the questions I think we did have is depreciation. How is that number determined, or what is?
I mean, I'm not. I almost want to look this way at the accountant. I mean, depreciation is really a function of the acquisition cost, and you know.
Right. But it
So-
covers what? Just the buses?
Yeah, just the buses. It's
Is this just a flat, just depreciation on the
Of those
buses
assets.
over a life of?
I think we.
Has determined.
Yeah,
About 7 years
7.
Yeah,
Probably.
I think we do a straight 7 on those.
would be my guess.
Yeah.
Straight life of 7, and what's the
That's right.
actual life of the buses generally?
About 7, maybe less.
7, 8
maybe
years
more
they
like
get
5.
replaced?
Yeah, I mean, we've had some that went 5 or 6. We bought 2 new ones. They're new to us. They were used buses, but we had to bring in two new ones last year. We had a brand new. We had nothing the year before, and a brand new one, a very high end one, 2 years ago.
Okay.
So I think I've purchased 3 buses and a trolley since I've been here. Oh great! Can I have one? Thanks.
The other question I have is on the other transportation revenue. What is that line?
There could be a couple things. Could be weddings. Weddings can rent the trolley. It's really
Okay.
not a bus, but it's a weddings can rent the trolley out for a few hours for part of their venue, and when they do that, we take the revenue in, but we just put another bus on the road. We don't lose access, and unfortunately, it just means that during those time periods, people take a blue bus as opposed to the the open air trolley. What else could that be?
So,
we've
but this
rented our
would be
bus to
all the
BBTS
uses,
before, but-
all the uses of the bus that you get any revenue for.
Are you taking the bus passes you're selling to Plymouth kids as part of your revenue in there?
No,
Okay.
no, we're not actually.
We like
Well,
snowy-
no,
snowy-
you know what? Let me back up. I gotta be honest. I'm not sure.
Is that-
I gotta be. I
that-
don't know if John put that in. It wasn't a whole lot. We sold 30 of them.
Right.
You know, it's probably less than
Okay.
like $1,000. So that actually could be in there. I said no at first because I thought, oh no, you'd see it jump, but we really didn't sell many of them. So
Because it might be the Snowy Owl also, because they're not a part of WVRA,
That's
they
right.
should pay you directly.
that's a very good point. Snowy Owl does pay us directly. So.
Now, on the operating costs, and just so to make sure that I've got these lines correct, it has manager, and then the next line is hourly labor and overhead.
Yep. So what the manager side of that, I believe that's 20% of Keith's time.
Okay.
As just to manage the entire
Sure.
system. The hourly labor and overhead would be the drivers themselves.
Right. Yeah, but here's what, there's a line then, and in addition, but over on the left-hand side it says payroll and benefits. I don't know whether if I add 69 and 19, that looks awfully close to 88.
Yeah, right. So that
So
that's
is the line above it hourly labor, overhead, payroll, and benefits?
yes, overhead would include.
All right.
Would
So
include
so that
benefits.
so
Yeah.
so
It's just
that
bad
all is in
nomenclature.
that line. Okay.
He's an accountant, you know, not an English major.
Yeah. Well, just as long as
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, no, that's how it rolls up in all the
Okay.
different department line items.
So the cost, roughly the cost of operating is around $250,000 a year. And what's the agreement, Mark, that we have?
25% from the town, 25% from the lodges, and 50% from the ski area.
All right. So what's 25% of 225? Is that what we're paying?
We're paying right now 48.
We're paying 48.
Yeah.
48 is what, 20, 24, and 4 is I think how we bill you. I think that's,
Yeah.
we do two bills of
It
20,000
came
each
across
and
20, 20, and 8 this year
Oh, okay.
instead of 4 and 4.
Chris, is the cost of running a bus to pick up your employees in Plymouth in this as well?
Yeah, it would be. I mean, I guess you'd probably see that in a fraction of the hourly labor and maybe fuel costs would be there.
Okay, but
So-
you did have quite a jump in hourly labor and overhead last year to the budget of this year.
Right, and I think that's because we didn't run enough buses last year. That's why we had to buy 2 new ones. We had some that were down for when they shouldn't have been down.
Mark, and I,
So if you take the 225,019, 25% of that's 56,255.
I'm sorry, what were you asking, Bill?
it looked to me like the number went down
No, I'm looking at the budget for this year.
versus
It's
the
hopping
budget.
back up.
Right.
Hopping back up, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, most of the $12,000
Well,
can be accounted for by a $14,000 jump in hourly
Yeah.
cost.
I'm assuming the budget 2013-14 and the actual 2013-14 are the same period, right? They're not.
That's right.
They're for the same period. So you originally
that's the same
budgeted
period.
83.
Yeah, but
And
we
you
only
actually
came in at
spent
69. That's right.
Okay.
I mean, we had a few
Right.
buses. A bus went down. Keith, we had drivers call out
Right.
at an abnormal
You
rate
just
this year.
ran
Keith was
it,
driving
right.
those buses
Okay.
when he probably shouldn't have been. But,
You have any other questions about the?
Yeah.
We don't have-
There's a
we
lot
don't
to
have a-
digest right now.
We
Right.
don't have a separate breakout for the cost of the cost of those trips into Plymouth and back to pick up your employees?
No, I guess we could figure that out. I
Okay.
think it's a kind of a fraction of what we do, but we could figure that out.
Now, Now, did we pay the resort any money for buses through the recreation department this year?
Yes,
We did, and in the past, that was kind of a courtesy up until 2 or 3 years ago, is that correct?
up until 3 years ago, yes, we did.
Right.
Um,
And do we know
an event
approximately how
like-
much that was?
In 2013, I want to say it was around $1,800, the bill that we received for Halloween. And then there was another bill that was, or maybe the 1,800 was everything, but there was another portion of the bill that was maybe a couple of summer trips.
So that's the rec department
The rec
requesting use of the
department,
buses, and we were
yes.
billing you for that.
Yeah.
Right, and before it was part of the cooperative venture we were in.
And when did that start? I don't know about that.
It was a couple or 3 years ago that it
So when I
that we
first got
started getting bills.
I did that.
I think so.
They're being nice, but yes, you did.
And just so that I'm aware, how many buses are there?
If you count the two smaller buses, smaller vehicles as well, we really have 5 big blues,
Five.
the trolley, and two small ones. We really only run 4. All 5 can run, but we really only run 4 of them. Technically, there's 8 in the. Technically, I believe you could claim 8 vehicles in the fleet.
And would you, off the top of your head, what is the replacement cost of a bus? What is a new bus?
Brand new, $80,000.
They're about 80.
Yeah, I paid $82,000. I
Okay.
won't do that again.
Want to trade for a used tractor?
Sure. You guys really have a used tractor?
No, we have a $150,000 sidewalk tractor there.
Oh, no.
We'll trade.
We're on the
Which
market
will
for a
get
tractor.
mentioned at my retirement party,
Oh,
so
okay.
it's okay. It's the Lamborghini of the fleet.
Oh, okay.
Mike's Lamborghini.
Yeah. So yeah, we bought 2 years ago. We bought a brand new bus for just over 80. Last year we bought 2 buses that were incredibly reliable for just over 8,000 each.
Right.
And that's because Loon, once I took over as the GM, when I started getting into things, everyone else said, "Don't ever buy a new bus again," and we learned our lesson. There's no need to do that. So,
Yeah.
and they ran great. You can get them cheap. As school districts are running out of money there, especially down south, we get a lot of our buses from down south where they have them eaten up by salt and get great deals and can manage the asset real easy.
Okay.
Mike, do you have any questions?
I have a devil's advocate question. Do we think it's
Sorry.
a $250,000 benefit
That's a good point.
Yeah.
No,
to anybody?
Yeah. I mean, I
It's a
think
lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, $250,000 benefit.
Could be
but
used for a lot of other things.
I got 129,000,
Yeah.
and that I could definitely use that. I mean,
I mean, WVA's not, they could be marketing.
I think the buses are. I personally think the buses have a huge benefit here. I can tell you, I don't mind saying this was not a very good year for us. I think they were managed fairly poorly. Everything from having enough labor staff and meeting certain schedules that we tried to meet, it just didn't pan out. We had a new manager. I think she was trying to get her feet under her after Andy left, but so I don't want to throw her completely under the bus. No pun intended, sort of. So I think we could do better. I think so. And the reason I'm bringing that up is I think when we run it really well, it's a very good and valuable service. From what we find, the only people really using it are the transient customers. Very few homeowners and people that live here use it. They drive or they get up there another way.
And I'm assuming it's, again, 90% of the usage is the weekends and the holiday periods.
Yeah.
I mean,
And BBTS, I mean the BBTS kids use it
the
midweek.
BBTS
but
kids.
still
Well, I
the
thought they
weekends.
had their own bus. No?
Not
They
to the
use-
mountain. Oh,
Okay.
they'll do a shuttle up in the morning sometimes.
Right.
Um,
But they use the blue bus.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're on the blue bus quite a bit. So yeah, but you're right. It's 90% is on the weekends. I mean, 90% of our customers are on the weekends.
Yeah.
It falls with that, especially on the because it's so transient customer driven.
Right.
So.
No, I think you're right from this perspective of residents. I don't know whether many of them use it.
Well, and hopefully, sorry Wendy left, but hopefully the feedback that we're getting from the surveys from
We'll
the
address that a little bit.
from the pedestrian thing will address that, and we can find a way to increase that usage. Because $250,000 for what they're being used for right now, we could set up a contract with Robertson, use their drivers that aren't driving for the schools on the weekends, and we could probably do it for $50,000
Well, so
for
just
the winter.
to that point, I did ask my team to go look at that. I said, what if I outsource this entire thing?
Right.
Because what you know, some of the costs you don't see in here are the maintenance
Well, the
labor.
maintenance
I put
stuff is not even
no
in
maintenance labor. I put the parts,
Right.
but none of the maintenance labor, and that really clogs up.
Right.
I mean, my guys need to be working on groomers and snow machines and all
Right.
that. The buses really cause a hassle. The fact that, you know, managing your own driver fleet is not easy with CDL licenses. Frankly, with Keith leaving, we're losing one of our key CDL licenses. When we got in a jam, Keith could go do it. The fact that Robertson's has that kind of redundancy, they have a network that they can go to. They know how to maintain and take care of these things better than we do. I believe, what I was told was that was looked at about 7 or 8 years ago, and the number came back really high, like astronomically more than what it cost. I've asked them to go out and look at that again. So if we get that number, I'll absolutely bring it to you. Not that I don't care whether we run the buses or not. I just want them to run well from a customer service standpoint. And this year, it did run well, and it was a headache. I mean, it's a real headache. Teresa's taking phone calls left and right, and rightly so. Some customers that, when they're down there for a half hour, they've been there.
Right. They can't get a bus up to
Right,
them.
and so it would be wonderful. And as we all know, it's always easier to put your boot on the throat of a contractor than it is sometimes of your own guys and
Mhm.
your own staff, because you have, you can hold money over them or whatever it is. You know, you can really hold their feet to the fire in terms of performance standards. So that's an idea. I don't know how the number's going to come back. Again, they haven't done it in 7 or 8 years, but we are pursuing that now.
Is it feasible to operate only on the weekends, to shut it down during the week?
Of course. Yeah, it's absolutely feasible. It definitely changes how we market it. I mean, you know, in most of the marketing materials that WVRA as well as we put out, and the lodges put out, it's always included as an amenity in a way.
Mhm.
It's not
Right,
really
yeah.
an amenity. It's not like it's a zip line, but I mean, we all talk about it as one of the bonuses of being here. You can take the shuttle, and it's the whole concept. You know, Tommy's original concept, which I still cling to, is you can park your car and not have to get in it. Now,
Mhm.
most people do, but you know that concept would go away midweek. You know, the question would come: are you giving up on your transient midweek customer? We've tried a lot of different programs to get that transient midweek customer here to stay over in the valley. It's not like, I mean, as most of us know, it's not like it used to. Other commitments, family commitments, school requirements, it's just a whole
Right,
different
it's a
ballgame.
whole nother.
No matter what you offer them, it's very hard to convince a family to come up here midweek and stay overnight. And they come, of course, but it's a hard.
They're coming a Friday or something.
Right.
And they'll stay
Exactly.
on a Monday.
They do their longer weekend. So, you know, maybe you run the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So if you're really looking at that transient business, and I mean, the bus is never empty, but there's often 1 or 2 people on there as we all know. So,
Mhm. Now, is it the resort association that pays a quarter, or is it the lodges themselves?
The resort association doesn't quite pay a quarter because some of the lodges aren't part of the resort association.
All right.
They technically pay
But the
a-
lodges collectively pay a quarter. Waterville Valley Resort Association picks up the portion for those that are a part of Waterville Valley Resort Association.
Okay. All right. And from the perspective of the resort association, is this worth doing?
I don't know if the question's been asked, to tell you the truth.
Right.
What do you think, Bill?
Well,
I mean, you
what you said is absolutely right. If you can't run it right, don't run it at all, because it affects the brand and it affects customer satisfaction and it has a huge impact on word of mouth. The flip side is, if you want to develop midweek business, and the shuttle service is important, and I think it is, you know, if it's the old chicken and the egg thing. If you don't
Right.
run the service, you're not going to get the people. So, you know, it's a dilemma. You know, I think we would all hope that there's a way to develop that midweek business with empty nesters or whoever it is, and you develop overnight stays, and that shuttle bus is Waterville's attempt to being able to stay on the slope,
That's
the
right.
slope side. So, you know, philosophically in the big picture, I think it's very important.
I mean, if we were a resort that was, we are where we are, and this is where we're going to stay, and this is, but that would be one thing, but we're looking to make those leaps. We're looking to, do some real estate development down here and do some expansion on the mountain. And that the whole purpose there is to drive more customers and get people excited about Waterville again and get them looking at that. And to Bill's point, it is part of the brand. It's hard to take something away, but still try to make a convincing argument that we're bigger and better than before. So, my sense would be to stick with it at least for another year or two and, see what comes out of the transportation study.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's see if we can come up with it's not whatever. Yeah, okay. Are there any other questions about the numbers? I think we need to take a look at these.
Yeah, we have to look at them, but I've just got some comments people have shared with me that I want to just bring in because they've asked me to bring in. People who are paying taxes, which is going to support the buses, have issues with the buses being used by the mountain for the employee transport, where it seems that the townspeople are paying for the mountain to bring employees in from Plymouth. The passes for the students, which I don't know if it went well or not, but these are things people have brought up. And if we look at taking the depreciation as part of the cost, it is a capital outlay, but you're recouping it through depreciation over 7 years. So the townspeople are actually paying for the cost of the buses.
Part of it. I mean, we all are. Yeah. I mean, we're all chipping in to pay for the asset. Yeah.
I understand. These are just the points that were made to me. So.
Yeah. I mean, a couple things. As far as the employee issue goes, that was happening well before I got here. So, and I actually looked for the agreement. Is there a
So
real?
did I.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't know if it. Supposedly there was one signed, and so I don't know if that ever laid out how they'll be used or what. But again.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say not my fault. We did nothing different with
Yes.
it.
See, the people I get
don't
There
have
was a 1996 agreement and there was a 2006 agreement.
2006, but it's written.
And it was written and it went around, because we revamped it when the Resort Association changed at about the 10-year mark.
Yeah.
And that was all re-signed. I know Tom Day had us all sign it.
Yeah, that could be in the depths of Keith's file. Keith is gone this week, but John didn't have it. I didn't have it. So
You're talking about the agreement between the town and the mountain.
No.
Between everyone in the
Between everyone in the mountain.
right.
It was signed by each of the individual lodges and it was signed by the town and the ski area.
I mean, if you guys want to revisit those items, I suppose
Yeah, well,
we can do that.
it's funny. The reason I get this from parents of high school kids who are going, "How come we can't bus our kids into school in Plymouth, but we're paying our taxes for the mountain to send a bus into Plymouth?" Which, it's a hard question to answer.
Well,
Not saying it deserves a proper answer or to be considered
No,
into this thing, but it just puts me.
I would say that, I mean, not to get into a whole debate about how tax dollars are used, but a lot of the taxes in this town go to things that enhance the experience at the resort.
Sure.
Making sure that we can bring those
Absolutely.
kids in from Plymouth and making sure that they can be part of what we have here. It's kind of that experience.
No, Chris,
so,
there's no real answer to this one. It's
No.
just one of these ones where I'm.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I
It
agree.
just
So
gives you some insight on how people's heads
Yeah.
work.
I can tell you, I can break that out, those costs out for you. I think you'll be shocked at how little they are.
Yeah.
But as far as the kids coming in on the Plymouth pass, they really come in on the employee bus. So during the weekdays, you can get on the bus with the employees, and on the weekends we do a second run out there.
See, these are the
Saturday,
things we need to
Sunday.
be able to communicate to the
Yeah.
people that are asking these fine
Right.
questions of me.
So there are 2 extra runs done. That is true. I don't even know if we're going to continue that program. Frankly,
Yeah.
it didn't. It was an incredible deal that kids just didn't grab onto. So we might try it again. We might not. But maybe again, if you guys can't find the agreement, we can't find it. Maybe now's the time to revisit a whole agreement.
Right.
So we have it down. I mean,
Well,
I'm
I
a big
think-
believer in putting things
I
down.
think we
on
should
paper.
get the results
Of
of
the-
the transportation
Yeah.
study we're doing now. And
Sure.
because one of the concerns would be, and I'd like to just hear if they can come up with some other ideas as to how to provide just general transportation around the village, as opposed to having people get in their cars and everything. Because we're running into, not at the mountain, but we're running into the problems where on holiday weekends and the rest you can't, you can't park at the athletic center. You know, there's no way then for people to get in and out of restaurants in the town square. So
Right.
I'd be curious to see whether they come up with an alternative suggestion. Or input as to what, when we talk about providing transportation, what should we, what do we need to provide?
I mean, this is a little bit off of a tangent,
Yeah.
but I do believe there are some infrastructure upgrades we can make to make the entire bus system more attractive. Everything from as simple as better bus signs and a bus map
Right.
at the bus stops that say,
Sure.
this is where it goes, right?
Right.
A lot of people, they're not 100% clear about where it goes, because most of the time they might take it just from their home to the mountain.
Right.
But is the athletic center in front of me and stops or behind me? Am I
Right.
gonna have to ride 20 minutes or?
And we'll
And-
see what they come up with.
And that's one of the problems is,
Right.
I shouldn't use the word problem. We have so many bus stops
Right.
that if you're at the wrong stop and you're trying to go over to the
Right.
left, but the bus is headed to the right, well, you don't want to ride a 15-minute ride to get all the way around to finally get back to town square. You'd rather get in your car and just drive over if it were cold and it's not walkable. So one thing we were looking at is multiple routes, different loops, smaller loops that run just a little more efficiently, a little more quickly in terms of their turnaround. Maybe run one loop on weekdays and one loop on weekends. Again, with Andy leaving last year, we had a lot of ideas on the table that we kind of backed off from, and we went back to just running the system kind of as is. Now that Melinda's, she's had a year under her belt, and this is something my whole staff is going away next week, and this is one of the big operational issues that we'll address. And obviously, when we get a number back from Robertson's, and I think there's even a second group that we put it out to just in case, because by all means, if there's a way to outsource it, there's
Sure.
no reason we shouldn't.
Bill?
I think one of the questions is, we freely admit that the last one was not a shining example of how we want to run the bus system. How much does it cost to run the bus system that meets the expectations of the guests? Is it $134,000 or is it $150,000? Because if you don't meet the expectations of the guests and have a system that creates a satisfactory experience for them, then I question whether you want to be running it at all. So is it
Right.
a money problem? Is it a green manager problem? Is it, it's got to run timely so that people know when they can get to the mountain.
And what do
get
you
back.
generally hear? I mean,
Huh?
what do you hear are the problems with the bus? One, it's I just stand around and wait for a half hour, or it's an old beat up bus and I don't want to get on it, or
I don't have
Hi.
a lot
Much.
of intimate interaction with all
Well,
of
we'll
our
see what
guests sitting up in
if
my
we get any
office, so
feedback.
The biggest one I get,
really don't know, but
biggest one I get, I think Chris is addressing, is people get on the bus and it takes them too long to get home. They don't want to drive up the hill before they're going over to the athletic club or the center. Some people, they want to go shopping and they want to go right to town square and come back. Or if they're staying at town square, they don't want their 9th scenic tour of the valley in the afternoon.
I did tour around to a lot of resorts this past year, other resorts, and one thing I noticed is, because I thought one of the issues would be that our buses are so visually unattractive, but our buses are no better or worse than Sunday Rivers or some other places. It's
Right.
actually, at least on the East Coast. Out west, they use some of these big fancy natural gas buses, but those are very heavily, if not 100%, subsidized by the towns like. Park City is one. They have an incredible transportation bus system, but it's really the town.
yeah, it's really a town.
Yeah, the city and town
transit
driver.
system.
It's
Right.
mega money. We looked at there's a place, a company called Darby Coach, who we looked at leasing buses. We've looked at bringing in some new stuff. It's hard to justify paying money to bring in nice new buses because salt and ski boots and water. You talk about depreciation of your
Just
asset,
wear
right?
them right out. Yeah.
Right, and so it's hard to think that that's gonna last. So I think in terms of the product, I thought it was worse than it is, but relatively speaking, it's not. I think it's a matter of how we run them. We've explored the idea of call centers at every stop, right? So you have a Wi-Fi, essentially a high-end
Right.
weatherproof Wi-Fi system. So when you show up there, you press a button and the bus goes. And if we're not getting called up noon peak or at some of these at the end of Osceola, we don't go. And that way the whole system becomes much more efficient, much less wear and tear, lower fuel usage, better for the environment. That system was pretty darn expensive to install, but something like that could be a game changer in terms of usage. So, I mean, and you can get, and I'm getting way ahead of myself, but you can get that system that then shows people download an app and you can see where all the buses are.
Yeah.
And
Right.
you can see how long your wait is exactly. And you can get really fancy with it, but
Right.
my sense is that we just need to kind of revamp our strategy and how we use our current assets, and maybe look into some of those, slowly build in those infrastructure amenities and whatnot.
I think the other issue is you have to somehow change the mindset of people. It's always more convenient to take my own car.
Yeah.
And we're subjects of convenience anymore. We don't want to wait for stuff.
I can tell you, I used to always take the bus, but my family always takes the car now. Like we're in that habit. We've
Right.
gotten into that habit. I don't think the system has changed substantially, but we are in the habit now, and that cultural mindset of
More convenient.
yeah.
It always will be.
Yeah, but I think if we can operate it well and establish reliability and guarantee certain minimum wait times and that kind of, you'll never wait more than 15 minutes for a bus or whatever it is. I think you can slowly start to reestablish a trust with the customer that they're not going to be standing on next to a snowbank for 45 minutes, which does happen. There's no doubt about it. And that's
Does it cost more money?
oh yeah.
How much?
No, I'm sorry. Will it cost more money?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I think we could just manage better. I really do. I think 80%. We can get 80% there simply by managing better, rethinking our routes, maybe using the smaller buses a little more efficiently. Why do we have to drive the giant blue bus every Wednesday? On a midday on a Wednesday, we can take that smaller bus and just be more efficient with it. And buses that don't need, the smaller ones, you don't need the CDL licenses and things like that. So anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions about the numbers themselves?
No.
Appreciate you taking the time to put them together for us.
Is there something I should plan to do? Is there a next step for me? I mean,
Relative to the buses?
Yeah, if you want to give me a homework assignment for the next for the buses, or do you want to wait till the transportation study comes in? I tell you what, maybe one of the next steps will be getting you better. We can try do some calculations and break out what the cost to Plymouth is for folks. I mean, just so they know what it is.
I don't know, and I'm just going to speak just from my own perspective. To me, the issue is not the cost to send kids back and forth to Plymouth, because I think you're right. If you took the number and you broke it out, it's not a big.
It's a few $1,000.
It's not a big chunk of the item. It gets down to the question of what do we really want to run a system if in the end all we're doing is irritating. People try it twice and then they gave up.
That's right.
I mean, why did the people years ago take the bus and they don't today? I don't know. Is it we've gotten used to just driving around in cars, or is it because you don't want to wait 25 minutes? And if you knew when it was going to come, or it was on more of a fixed schedule, maybe people would go back to use it. It just seems to me that just living here in the winter, I mean, I can't tell you the number of times during weekdays I just see empty buses rolling around, and I say to myself, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Why do we have that looks worse than not having buses, having empty buses. Now on the weekends they're fine. And then we got problems with drunks over in Coyote, and we can't get them home at night, And I say, well, we could use a bus, to take them.
The only thing I would add to that is we did also try, just for your own knowledge, we did also try using the bus with tubing this year on Friday and Saturday nights.
Right.
No use.
No use at all.
Couldn't get people to go to use it,
even though it's difficult to park over there.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
And what we found there was when you have a dark bus at a dark stop, this town is too dark. I mean, this is
just
getting
people don't want to do it.
They don't want to. They definitely don't want their kids waiting.
Right.
They would rather have the kids start walking down the road than wait next to a dark snowbank.
So to me,
to get into a
you
dark
asked the
bus.
question as a homework assignment. I think it's the big picture thing to me. What do we really want to run a bus system, and why? What are we trying to accomplish more than the numbers? If we come to the conclusion that this is in fact bringing guests in is a valuable service, we'll figure out. Then I think we could figure out a way to pay for it. But I don't know anymore.
If you have a really
maybe
reliable
things have
system,
changes. Yeah.
you can actually market it, right?
Right.
You can make that.
I
not just
guess.
we have a bus system. We have an incredibly reliable system, and in Waterville Valley, you never have to wait more than 15 minutes. Not in a ticket line, not in a lift line, not for a bus.
Right,
I mean, you can actually build to that and
right,
actually sell it,
right.
but you better come through on it. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Right.
a trust of the customer. So, okay, all good stuff.
All right. So the other question we had, and I'll just, again, we get feedback, again from residents. So we have a fair number of comments from residents. Their concern is the mountain's failing.
The mountain's failing.
Oh, yeah.
Based on what?
Well, they say they see nothing but no maintenance going into it anymore. Well, I mean, the example everybody used this year was on the quad. I mean, the seats, the foam cushions on the seats
No, I
are
get it.
falling
We
apart,
obviously
you
go
know?
through.
And, I'll just put it out there. We get residents, I don't have anybody say, boy, so the question is the mountain doing all right? I mean,
Mountain's doing
because
fantastic.
we get that question all the time.
This year, for the fourth straight year, we were financially better than the year before. Every
Alright.
year, we're in the black. We're doing well. I don't want to make this about me versus Booth Creek.
No.
But I've sunk more capital dollars, nearly $5 million capital dollars into the mountain in less than 4 years. It took Booth Creek 12 years to sink that kind of money into it. So where we sink our money, I call it's very unsexy.
Mhm.
Okay, we sink it into the pipe system, we put it into the lifts, we put it into things, we put it into the leaky basements because they don't leak anymore. So we've really tightened up the infrastructure. I think a lot of those comments, and I get them more than anybody. And
I'm assuming
all
you do,
angles.
yeah.
I think a lot of those comments lately are driven because we received the expansion permit, which is an 8-year permit, and because we didn't run chainsaws the next day, which was not feasible, that there's this sense that we're not doing anything. Well, that's nonsense. We have to deal with the Forest Service. They have certain rules, they have certain demands. We've had our permit less than a year. And yeah, I would have loved to have turned those chainsaws on in the winter. That was a big goal of ours, but the Forest Service has their pace of things too. Between sequestration and the government shutdown, they're backlogged. And we can't do a ton unless they're part of what we're doing.
Sure.
They've asked that we, because of the fiasco, I don't want to say fiasco, but the issues that other mountains had, where they cut lift lines and then didn't put a chair in for a couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
which is really bad. They said, look, just tell us exactly what chair you're going to put in there before you cut a tree,
Mm-hmm.
which is absolutely fair, and so
Sure.
we're doing that analysis now.
Right.
Frankly, Doppelmayer's been a little busy over on Snows Mountain. They're going to do a lot of the engineering work for us up at the mountain. They've been a little busy with another project of ours. I think a lot of that is simply driven because we have an expansion permit and we haven't cut a tree yet. But to be honest, we'll cut when we're ready, and we got to be responsible about it. If I start cutting trees and a lift isn't ready to go in because either the Forest Service can't meet certain commitments or we can't meet certain commitments, it's going to be even worse. So I think people are just antsy to see something go. I want it to go more than anybody. Trust me. Nobody has more interest in seeing expansion move like I do. Our plan is still to be cutting this fall, and we've broached the Forest Service with that. We think we'll have our lift engineering and our sense at least 90% sure of what lift is going to go in there by November. So that's our kind of our next goal, to actually start cutting that lift line. Then you have to do engineering and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Again, I don't apologize for anything, frankly. I
you
put
don't
more
have
money
to.
into this mountain than anybody.
Well,
than
let
anybody
me
has
ask you
in
another
this
question.
town
From the
Portland.
perspective of your relationship with the town and everything else, is this something we can do as a town to make this work better? I mean,
Well, I don't- what's not
you
working
are
well?
critical to the success of this town. I mean, I don't think the town understands that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The quick answer is no. I mean, I think we have a great relationship with the town. We have a great relationship with the Forest Service. There are, look, we'll just throw it out there. There are curmudgeons that will naysay everything that we try to do, or programs we try to instill,
Oh, sure.
or complain,
Yeah.
or whatever it is, for whatever reason. Everyone has their own motivations. I don't respond to that stuff, and maybe that's one of the issues, is that I don't respond to the negativity. I think people try to tell me what you're doing, tell me what your financial. I'm not going to tell you my financial results.
No.
I mean, we got to be reasonable here. I think because I am fairly transparent, and by
Right.
me I mean the
It's your
company.
business, right?
Yeah, I think because we're local and we're here, there's a sense that everybody should direct and have a say in what the company does. I love the input. Don't get me wrong, we love the input, and we love that we're so close and we can have that. But at the end of the day, we have to be careful about what we do. And it's people like to compare us to other resorts. We're managed by the Forest Service to a certain extent, and we have a great relationship with them. And I won't do anything to harm that. We have other issues. There is another endangered species that very well could thwart expansion. Okay, so it's the short-eared white-nosed bat or something, right? It's a bat. So I gotta be
the
honest.
bats are dying. We were trying to get
They're not dying fast.
pet project of mine is to introduce bats to this into
Yes.
the valley.
But in all seriousness, if I start cutting trees
yeah,
and come October, November, they declare this an endangered species,
yeah,
we got some real problems.
Right.
So again, I'm sorry I don't put out a press release every week to folks. I think people would like to see that. There's a lot of other issues that we deal with.
right.
I try to make myself as available as possible. Last
Okay.
time I checked, George Gillette visited the resort once in 15 years. So again, I
Never met them.
yeah.
So yeah.
So again, it's very frustrating for me. I'm not going to lie to you, because we try to be transparent. I know everyone wants to see a chainsaw running. It's not. I would challenge someone to tell me. You're right about the seat covers on the White Peak Squad. Those are up for those are due for our change this year. We kind of rotate things through. I think it's going to get painted too. But I challenge somebody to tell me what isn't working as well as it used to. What has deteriorated? I mean, our infrastructure is better.
Well, I'll just share with you
Yeah.
the comments in here that perception is you don't make snow as much as they did in the past.
I made more snow last year than ever before.
And
December
and
was
as
a
I say,
record-breaking
perception,
month
I
for-
really
yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I
But
have no idea.
The difficulty, again, the frustration is
Right.
how the perception is nonsense. I'm going to be really blunt, because when I make more snow in December than ever before, no one ever touched what we did in December. It's not like you can't see that.
Right.
Those guns were cranking all over
Right.
the mountain. I think at most at any given time we were 4 or 5 trails behind Loon in the month of December. I mean, we really made it fast. We had incredible conditions. I think we made a little too much snow in certain areas because it was so darn deep, and I still have 20-foot piles up there. But so there's nothing I can do about that. When I make more snow than ever before, and the perception is I'm not making it, I don't know what to tell you, right? I mean, what can I do to make people see more snow come out of the guns? It's coming out faster than ever. If you have an idea, I'm being very serious.
No,
Let me know.
and I
Yeah.
heard you say that you're going to have a meeting with your staff, and that's great. But I guess we challenge you to do. I'm going to talk from the perspective of residents and property owners in this valley. Who pay the taxes?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's their money that we're spending. But my belief is if they were convinced that there were things that they could do to help this mountain develop, and that would come out, that would be funded through taxes, I think they'd be willing to listen to some of that.
Well,
And not that obviously we don't spend anything without anybody's approval. But my sense would be there are a lot of people who would like to see some.
Well, I would look.
So
what WCI has proposed to the town is a huge leap, right?
Right.
What we've talked about in terms of master plan development, the town is going to have to be a huge partner in that. There's no doubt. The biggest partner.
Oh, absolutely. Which is why
Whether it's
we're
zoning
interested
or
in doing the
development
change.
or
Right.
getting a gondola. I mean, I'm not going to be happy till I get a gondola out of town. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to fight hard for it, and we're going to do everything in a responsible and meaningful way. We're not going to rush to anything. But that's where I think the partnership with the town is going to be incredibly valuable.
Okay.
My plan was my business plan. I've never changed it. It was 3 years to get our feet under us, to make a true transition. And given that we had no snow in 11-12, we had some very serious management issues, which we addressed and took care of. Put us on from the red to the black, where we actually make money. We don't have to borrow money. We don't have to do anything like that. There were rumors that we have no money, that we lost our line of credit. Complete nonsense. We didn't even touch our line of credit this year. That's how financially sound we were. We didn't even touch our line of credit. So when I hear that stuff, I could come down and try to address every little rumor, but I can't. I got to manage my business, and I got to drive forward because I know where we're going. And it's not a hey, get behind me and trust me. The results. I have to show the results, and the company has to show the results, and that's all there is to it. I wish I came in with do I have $50 million in my back pocket? Not today, but that's a big part of the plan. We've been here 3.5 years, and we're considering, again, we had no snow, one year. We had some real management problems we had to take care of. And the fact that we're really right on schedule in terms of the master plan, where we go out and start really approaching expansion of the mountain and expansion of the valley and getting this place developed and making it a 21st century resort. And timeline-wise, we're right on target. We're right on target. And and again, part of that is my fault because I don't maybe come down and address that stuff as much as maybe I should. But one thing I learned, I tried doing it early on. Some people you're just never going to win with. So
That's true.
I'm wasting my breath to a certain point. At the end of the day, our results will dictate our success. So.
No, and it's not our business to try to tell you certainly how to run your business
But we want the input. I mean, it
no,
isn't a way your business.
I mean,
but
where we can work cooperatively, we just like to understand those things as well because if there are things we could do,
I do a shareholder newsletter every few months to my shareholders.
Right, sure.
And because I'm the largest shareholder, but we do have some other folks that are partnered with us. And we're a small group, and that's very confidential, to be honest.
Sure.
Maybe there's we do our season pass holder blast where we try to keep people updated with certain things.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about expansion in every one of those blasts because sometimes things don't change. I'm waiting for 4 months now. I've been waiting for
It's like the buses. If you say we're going to do something, then their expectation is it gets done immediately. You're right. You're better off not addressing it.
2 examples where I proposed doing something here that I haven't come through. I really hate talking about things if I can't do it. One was to cut trees last winter. I really wanted to do that. But when we heard about the endangered species issue, when the Forest Service was behind, when Doppelmayr and some of the engineers couldn't, we don't want to rush. That's the worst thing you want to do is rush something just to do it. Because whatever we do, it has to last here for 50 years. So we have to do it right. So, I don't publicize exactly why we're slowing down or why things are on hold, but it's not like we're not moving forward. I mean, like I said, we made great strides this year.
Okay.
So
all right.
If you have ideas, I know you might hear frustration.
No,
in my voice,
our concern, when we look at it from the perspective of the town, we have aging. Our infrastructure actually is in remarkably good shape. I mean, when you get down to basic things like water, sewer, with a lot of other towns suffer from, we're in very good shape.
Extremely good shape. I see the whole state.
And we're in as good a shape as you can get. But we've got aging housing. We've got housing now, condominiums that are really don't well service the condominium market. I think and I don't know, Mike, real estate sales are hanging in there.
Well,
but it's a mixed bag. I mean, it's
if we're going to open.
Sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful.
No, that's all right.
A very important preschool graduation.
Yes.
I hear you.
And congratulations, you've done
What a
very
waste
well
of
this
time.
year.
What a waste of time.
If you miss it, you don't graduate.
No milk and cookies. But you mentioned the real estate thing. One of the things that I deal with, and a lot more, is everyone has their own vested interest in seeing things well. If they're not feel they're included in the process, they feel they're excluded in the process. Everything that is taken as a negative is blown up into a huge negative, and things that aren't even negative, like what you've talked about here. No one knows your finances but you. But everyone has got their opinion on their finances because the Sunnyside chair doesn't work in the week. They don't have any money for oil. Right. If there's no lifting, all of this stuff. But those things lead to apprehension in people who are thinking of moving here and buying here because there isn't enough good news being put out. And I don't know what the good news would be or how it would be put out.
This week's good news, I've sold 100 more season passes to date than ever before.
Great.
Which is great.
People need to hear this. People need to, because the rumors are out there that, as you're right, you're going to have the people that are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to be out there, and it's a lunatic fringe that always comes out and votes and does. If you go to a restaurant, you have a good meal, you'll tell 2 people. If you have a horrible meal, you'll tell anyone who's going to listen. Mm-hmm. So that's what needs to be overcome for people to get a positive feeling about what's going here. Bill's perception is it's through no acts of yourself, but when you see torn chairs, when you see a lift not running, and there's no other information to offset that, people jump on that, and people don't want to be left off this bandwagon. They want to be.
Was there more? I mean, and I'm asking this in all seriousness. Was there more information with the former owners? I mean, If they
I don't think the expectations
I think
were
the
as high with the other
difference
owners.
is that, and it's just Tommy Day. Tommy Day was more visible.
Yeah,
So I think more residents had a relationship with Tom Day. And if you ask me, I'd tell you it was that simple. He was just the kind of guy that's what he did, So that's him. That's him. I mean, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. But anyway, back to the town structure. Some of the things we struggle with is we've got aging condominiums and we know it. We've got some old inns and stuff in the center of town that are almost vacant now. And so we're gonna have some challenges to figure out as a town, what do we want to do with some of this stuff? Because
I think that's
some of
where-
it's gonna have to get rebuilt
That's
now.
where the WCI plan is critical.
Yeah.
It's everything. I mean, it's if I'm not saying either the town commits to the plan or we're stuck in the doldrums, but I think the town needs to commit to some form of it.
well, once we see it, we'll be able to.
Well, yeah,
But we're committed
to it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're committed to the extent that we're trying to get some input. I mean, we understand that the parking in the center of the town is atrocious, and that there needs to come up with we've got to solve that problem somehow. I mean, I don't know what the answer to the problem is, but what we have now is unattractive and not functional. I don't know what good you could say about it, but that kind of sums it up, So we are vitally interested in those things.
If there's something,
it's not that we
wanna
don't.
come to the
I
planning
think
meeting and
most.
you guys send me with questions every meeting. I mean,
Sure.
you guys tell me what you think would work best. What is public information? I'm happy to tell the world.
Right.
Okay.
All right. I appreciate you coming down.
Okay.
Just
Yeah, I'm
one
sorry.
small
Margaret. Yes,
question.
No,
go ahead.
whatever.
Yeah.
Snow's Mountain lift.
Yes.
Is that ever going to be back in
The
service?
load test is on next Tuesday and Wednesday, so it should be
Okay.
up by the following Saturday, the
So
14th.
people can take their bikes up because
Absolutely.
I know people that love that.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Oh,
great.
okay.
Yep, the load test. The tramway board has to come in next week to do it.
Yeah, and from somebody who used to be in the human resources area, you might want to consider just every once in a while, the wigwag only comes out once a month, maybe 4 or 5 times a year. Throw something in there.
Sure.
You know, with some of the things that you told us today, that we just finished up, a season, we were in the black, it was better than the last 4 years. I mean, that basic kind of stuff. Yeah, you're going to get people who respond to that and say, oh, this, that, and the other thing. But nobody will be able to say, we're not hearing something.
Right.
Or we're not hearing something public. You might want to consider.
Sure. I think I did a couple articles with folks that were writing for the wigwag
Yeah.
that did not go well. I'm not going to lie to you. That
Yeah.
went absolutely terrible. There was it was a one-on-one interview, and I don't know where that article
Right.
was. There's so much nonsense in there.
Write them yourself.
Write
Yeah.
it yourself.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
probably
Write it
what you
yourself
have to
and
go
say,
through.
here's, it's a report from the mountain.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And do it do it regularly, but you don't have to do it every issue. Do it,
Sure.
every 3 issues. Or
Okay. No,
something
we can
like that.
absolutely do that.
And community visibility, I think, would be a very strong thing for you folks to do. It's
In
one of
what
the
terms?
one of the comments that I get a lot. People still think I still work there, and that I have the answers because there is no visibility
Don't
from
you work
your
there?
staff.
In what sense?
In the fact of being in the community, stopping, talking to people, engaging, like the Tom Day thing, as Bill had mentioned, was very vital in keeping communications open and getting things out.
Okay.
So-
I mean, I'm here 6 days a week.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, but are you down walking around? Are you down?
I
Well,
see them in the
yeah.
coffee shop
Yeah.
every once in a while.
No, like a comment was made to me last night
Yeah.
that they thought it was kind of the scholarship that was given out at Plymouth High School there was no one from Waterville to give it out, where everybody else pretty much sent a representative to him to give out their scholarship.
Okay. I'm not going to say who was supposed to be there, but
Yeah.
that's who was supposed to be.
Okay.
Sorry, but
Yeah.
No, I'm glad
Well-
you told me that. But. No, okay. Look, if any other ideas,
We will, if
I
we
am open
come up
to
with
it.
them, we'll be more than willing to share them,
Okay.
and we'd ask you to do the same, and I certainly appreciate your coming down
Sure.
and sharing your info. We will get, we're supporting the buses, until at least the transportation study is done, and when that comes back in, possibly we'll come up with hopefully we'll come up with some recommendations and alternatives, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
All right?
One more silly
I'm sorry,
idea
go
that
ahead.
came to me just as we were sitting
Yeah.
here. Our little coffee with a cop program
Yeah.
does wonders for, getting people familiar with our policemen.
We did one up at Baseline.
Yeah, and you could do something similar to that. Just, every once in a while, have a coffee, come meet Chris and say hi or something like that. I'm just thinking
Sure.
off the top of my
Okay.
head.
Bring your moose.
Yeah.
I am the moose. Okay,
Yeah.
no, that's good stuff.
All right,
All right, thanks,
thank you
guys.
very much, right.
You want your wallet?
Well, apparently this.
Well, anyway.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to the bid, the $800,000 bond bid on the garage. Mark?
Yep. We received 3 bids, TD Bank, Meredith Village, and Northway. The low bidder was Northway at 2.91% for the 10 years. And bank fees of $500. I'll do a couple of sheets that shows you what our long-term debt will look like on 12/31/14. If we add in the Northway loan,
Okay.
would bring our total debt to $3,260,000 principal. Our budgeted number with the $80,000 a year will be $558,114 in place of the $523 that we budgeted this year.
Right, but we've already committed to
But
doing this.
we
This
have,
is,
but,
this is.
but I'm just
right,
showing
you're
you
just trying to
the
get it.
numbers.
So they're the low bidder. Any reason not to take the low bidder?
No, we closed fine on the last loan
Yeah.
we did with them in January.
Okay.
Can't see any
To
reason to not do it.
Margaret, Mike, do you have any
No.
feedback on this at all? Okay.
No,
What do you
fine.
need from us? A motion?
I need a motion to
To
accept it and then your signatures on it.
Accept the bid?
Accept
I'll
the
make a
bid.
motion to accept the bid for Northway for the amount of, for the bonds of $800,000 at
2.91%.
2.91%
I'll
interest.
second that.
Let me just ask you a question. I
Sure.
assume that we cannot take funds that we have in that are in some trust funds that I know now that, what did we get last time? Was it 1% or a quarter of 1%?
I think we're up to a half of them.
Half of 1%. We cannot invest those in our own things, right?
No, that's correct.
Okay.
We could do that if we took a vote at town meeting to do that.
No,
Really?
we're not allowed.
Okay. I
Okay.
assumed that you had to
Okay.
keep them separate.
And
Yeah.
you put them into an online bank that has higher interest rate than that?
They looked all, the
long-
trustees, the trust
Did they?
fund looked. Yeah.
As long,
They
they
claimed
would
it
have to
did.
meet certain
Ah,
criteria. We are
And probably
controlled
as a
by law.
municipality, you wouldn't be able to. 'Cause some of them are
Some
getting
of them
close to
are.
1% right now.
Actually, I think the trustees of the trust funds, the best they found was a half.
Half, 0.45.
0.45.
No, but Margaret's right. Yeah, there
Yeah,
are
no,
interest,
you
people
can't.
paying interest of
Yeah.
1%. Happy days are here again, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So, I made a motion to appoint Northway.
And I seconded it.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. And we're talking about the garage. Mark, you, in your notes, noted that we have had some contaminated soil?
We do. We have a pile out there under the plastic that's been tested, does have some contamination, will have to be disposed of. The good news is all of the water is okay. There's no contamination.
Is the
that's-
project is still
We're-
working and it's not
we're
on hold or
on-
anything?
Nope,
Okay.
nope. They weren't here today because we didn't get everything finalized last night in time for them. They had to make
Yeah.
a decision, so they took today off.
Okay.
So
Okay.
hopefully they'll be back to work tomorrow. Should be pouring the footings tomorrow for the front part of the building.
Well, for the north corner,
Yeah,
north side.
So we're moving along. The really good news was no contamination in the water.
What, while we're talking about contamination, do we ever get the results of what happened at Village? That water, that ground?
No, we have not been told.
Okay, great.
We do know that Dana is under contract to remove the soil, but we don't know what
How
they-
he has to do it and all
Right.
that. Okay.
Is that because they've dealt with Dana directly as opposed to
Yes.
us? We just don't know.
We
They've
just
let
don't know.
Dana know what he
Yeah.
needs to do.
I'm not sure that there's a plan in place yet, but I can't speak to that.
Yeah,
But
I just
think I would know what the plan was.
would be, I would think they would tell you what the plan is. So what the answer is, it sounds like we have not heard back what to do yet.
And I'm not sure that Village has either.
Right.
Right.
A lot of times they don't know until they get into it too.
But they have contracted with Dana to remove the contaminated soil.
It's
We
not our
know
problem.
that,
There we go.
and it's their problem.
Exactly.
Well, it is our problem in the sense that we can't complete the project, right? And
Well, we can't complete that
That
One
one.
pit.
that one install. Yes, you're correct.
right,
We can't.
if we don't complete that install,
Yes.
is that gonna hold anything up?
We may, it probably will not, because they'll probably have
Let's
Okay.
grow it.
solution before we need to finish that.
If-
We're working
if-
other places right now.
I understand, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure you answered my question. Yeah, let's suppose that we get all the rest of the stuff done 6
Yeah.
months, and now we still haven't heard from DES. From the standpoint of the rural development, are they going to hold funds up because we have one little piece of work we didn't get done?
If it came down to that, we will find an alternative
We'll go
to
to
that
plan B.
exterior.
Yeah.
We will
Alright.
find
Run
a
the
plan.
pit some through the back of someone's
All right.
unit.
Yeah,
Okay,
maybe.
good.
Yeah.
All right, the new well, you opened bids now. You went out for
Yes,
bids.
We
Can you
did.
give us an
And
overview?
the paperwork that's in front of you, a couple of things.
Right.
We had 7 bids on this pipe project.
Right.
The low bidder, the apparent low bidder is Jeremy Hiltz Excavating.
Yep.
The bottom line bid that was read by the town clerk was $427,500. When the engineer did this spreadsheet, looks like this right here.
Yep.
When you total the item costs, it comes up to $437,000.
So you made a math
$500.
error.
So they made a $10,000 math error. Their math was correct between the unit cost and the item cost.
Yeah. So you
They
got a
just
spreadsheet
totaled
wrong.
it wrong.
Yeah.
So,
Doesn't speak highly to someone, you know, that we're gonna hire somebody who can't get the basic math right.
But it
But,
was to our favor.
they're multiply.
So we like him already.
So we have a decision, you have a decision to make.
what do we know about, well,
Jeremy
what's the
Hill-
decision? You have a
Can't add.
recommendation.
Well, I have a recommendation that you award the bid for $437,500
To Jeremy Hiltz.
to Jeremy.
What do we
Hiltz.
know about Jeremy Hiltz?
Jeremy Hiltz is an excellent corporation. They are the 2014
They have awards, they're in here.
Contractor of the Year in North America.
So they're a reliable
they're very
contractor, people
reliable.
have dealt with them before
Absolutely.
and all that good stuff.
Yes.
I've worked on
When
three
are they,
projects.
when would they start?
They will begin probably right after the 4th of July at this
Okay.
time. They may mobilize before then, but I think they would start digging. right after
And
the 4th.
what gets shut down, if anything, while they're working? I guess the trail along the
connector-
river there, and so a
connector
couple
trail.
of connector trails will
And
be
the
shut
Greeley,
down.
the Greeley Pond portion in the national forest off the end of the.
That's all Forest Service property?
No, it's
What
So
part of
right
it is
behind
ours? Yeah,
yours,
it's part of it belongs to the
that's
town,
ours. The
right?
connector is the town's.
Have we notified the bike people that they're gonna lose those 2 trails for the
Yes,
summer?
we will have well, they're not gonna lose it for the summer. They will lose it during the week, during the work day. There
Right.
will be a detour. At the end of each day, there will be barricades put up around where they're digging,
Okay.
and people can go around the work area. On the weekends, the contractor is required to put the trail back and store his equipment out at the clearing. So the trail will be usable on the weekends. The whole trail, they must clear the trail
Okay.
each weekend. So as far as the overall budget, if you look at this summary sheet right here,
Yep.
looks like this. You see contract number
Right.
5, the 437,500.
Yep.
We are within budget, and I'll talk about the 344,750 in a minute. But we are within budget, and we still have $125,500 in contingency
Okay.
available.
That's all the questions I had relative to. You have any questions over to Jeremy?
No.
Bill? Margaret?
Thank you,
You need a
Jeremy.
motion to select.
Need a motion to
I will make a
select
motion that we select Jeremy Hiltz to, what do you call this? The well number 4 water main installation at a cost of $437,500.
him? Correct.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and the second piece of this is the interior meter installation, this little piece of paper right here.
Yep.
It's short. So,
Is this contract number 4?
this is contract number 4, Mike,
Okay.
yep. So this is the one that we have now bid
Right.
3 times. This is our third attempt, and we finally got it right. So we are Dana White. This one is will be good to go now. So under this project, we will extend Dana White's meter pit installation contract for an additional $344,399. $299,449 of that is to a company, LDG Meter Installers.
Okay.
It's a company that does this all over the state of New Hampshire. Dana actually had 2 different bids. One bid was for this $299,449. The other bid was for a little over $305,000. So we know that they were right in the same ballpark,
Okay.
bid wise. Dana White has to extend his bonding and insurance for 10% of LDG's costs. So that's where the $29,950 comes from. And then Dana has asked for 5% for the $15,000 number.
And Dana is going to oversee this work?
Dana will be the construction manager.
Okay.
LDG will work for him,
Okay.
and he will do the interface between the town.
So our
and
contract
LDG.
is with Dana on this?
That's correct.
And not with this
Not with
LDG?
That's correct.
Okay.
And I would recommend that you approve the contract contract extension of the $344,399.
Any questions on this,
No.
Mark? All right, so we'll make a motion to authorize Dana White, we'll award to Dana White, right, the bid for the installation of internal meters in homes, right?
Yep,
At $344,399.
correct.
Should we round it up to 400?
No,
I will second that.
All right,
Aye.
all those in favor?
I
I thought we'd give him a tip.
no.
I think he gets enough.
All right,
All right.
Mark, is on this project, is that it? Are we now done with all of the bids,
No, one more bid.
which is for?
The construction of the new well
Well house.
site and the renovations
Of
to
the well
well
house.
house 2. And
Right.
the connection of this water
Construction
line.
of the well site. The well itself is dug?
The well itself is dug, but we have to put a control building over it,
Yeah.
and we have to put in the
Pump.
pumps and all of that.
Pumps,
The control
controls.
units,
Right.
the propane
When does that go out for
tank.
bid?
Hopefully within the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Forest Service has not moved off of this thing about using electric to, about using solar to power this thing.
No,
They
we
find that
dropped
objectionable.
Yeah, we dropped that when they.
Idiots.
Well, Bill, also, we kind of made light when Chris mentioned the bat. I actually
Yeah.
got a call from the
Well, I don't make
Forest
light. I
Service.
know the
I
bat,
don't
the
make
light.
white-nosed bats are dying.
They're asking us to get going on this water
Before-
line
before the bat-
installation because the bats could put the kibosh to any tree cutting at all in the town of Waterville Valley.
So we could lose our tree
Permanent.
cutting money?
Well, we didn't have any this year,
Oh,
but yes, this could affect the building if we don't get this going quickly.
Yeah.
It could affect the well house building.
There's nothing we can, I don't think there's anything we can do relative to the bat problem, right?
No, it's coming from higher up in the Forest Service.
No, I mean, there's nothing we can do as
No.
a town to encourage bats to move here.
No, I wouldn't.
we got that, we put our.
Well, no,
farmhouses
it's
too.
that,
No,
there's
there's
snotty
a
nose, the
fungus.
brown nose
Yeah,
disease,
it's
yeah,
the- it's the
we
brown
need
nose
bats.
disease.
I
Yes,
mean, that's the
absolutely.
only answer to black flies is
Right.
bats. But,
So this could be a potentially very serious thing for.
then I would
a lot of the
suggest
stuff
that
we
the
do.
contractor, be instructed to go cut a tree down or something,
Yeah.
get started.
We will, yes,
Okay.
we will move forward.
All right,
It is a problem.
okay. Town ordinance, signs.
Can I
We wanna
can I
talk-
make
I'm
a
sorry, go
suggestion?
ahead.
Why don't we skip over D&E till Bill Cantlin comes back in, because he probably
Is-
would have
is-
some input
is-
on this.
Well, look, can we talk about D? What's Bill got to do with D?
It's his sign.
Yeah, but is
No,
that
no,
what you
no.
wanted to talk
Oh,
about,
he-
or just wanted to
what?
review the ordinance?
No, he's got
I
a bunch,
love it.
he's got a bunch of other,
Oh, okay, I thought it was just.
the other
okay.
issues. We're gonna show you some pictures and Chris wants to get some feedback here.
Okay.
You're up, Chris.
Oh. Alright, just
It's you.
driving around town, there was, and I'm not picking on anybody in particular.
Just
There's,
everybody.
well, everybody,
Everybody needs to.
we're all
Yes.
guilty of this.
Well, I'm not
there's,
admitting guilt till I know what it is.
And I find that the problem is all of us here in town drive around every day. We look at this every day, and it's not an issue that we see.
Right.
But from somebody who is not from town, who's coming here on vacation, this is their perspective
Okay.
of what they see when they come here. So if you picture yourself as looking at Waterville Valley as a resort for the very first time, you're here, you're renting a place at the Golden Eagle, and you're walking
Right.
around town. These are the things you're seeing. And we can just go through them. Dumpsters, open, no enclosures, just infrastructure that is poor, doesn't look great. Again, here you have a fence that's, it's totally meets code and everything, just doesn't look very good.
Okay.
Right.
Stuff like this out on around the pond, that's right by the cross-country ski
Sure.
trails.
Didn't we give them the right to do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's
Yes.
my point. Yeah, that's my point is,
Yeah.
do we want, and my whole point is, what do we want to do about this? Do we want to just keep going the way we are? Do we need to all get together, WVRA, business owners, the town, get together and say, hey, this is our plan? A lot of things that I find are that everybody points a finger at each other, like around town square, oh, that's not mine. I let them use it. Somebody's supposed to maintain this.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's not.
some of these things are not to code, like the dumpster enclosures and
Right.
having those dumpsters in the open. That violates our rules.
Okay, so if
Okay.
we have a clear violation, why don't we just pay attention and ask the people to make it so it conforms to the ordinance?
Because they have asked for exceptions in the past and we have granted them
Okay.
exceptions.
Listen, I don't
But-
remember granting these
No,
exceptions.
it happened a long time ago.
Right,
because
it was a long time.
We were
ago.
redoing our whole dumpster
Okay.
program, and they said, well, once you decide what you want to do, we'll do it. But no sense in doing it now when you're going to change. And that
Mhm.
was the whole town square thing.
That's the kids jumping rope over
Yeah,
like tennis
and they-
courts.
And again, I'm not picking on anybody, but you see this, and these pictures were taken by people who just showed up here, and I said, go out and see what you see, and give me some feedback.
Right.
That's another zip line that's coming across the way. Of course, this house comes up. So along with this house, we've all seen this one.
Yes.
This one was found,
That's the old Lorenz house? No.
Hollingworth.
Yeah,
Well, that's Bev's real house?
that's Bev Hollingsworth.
And if you go, that's a cottage that's behind Hollingworth
Oh, that's good.
with a big tarp on it and falling in. That's Lorenz.
That's Loren's garage.
Garage. There's lots of infrastructure. I think we're getting into infrastructure stuff, but it's very common to see this around town. And I think that we've asked the electric company and the telephone company to fix them,
Yeah.
and they refuse.
What do you mean they refuse?
They just say no. They say it works, it's okay, we're not fixing it.
Have we written them formal letters to this?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Have we gone above their heads and sent a picture?
I don't know who I would send, what do you mean, send a picture of?
Take a picture of this, send it to the president of the co-op or whoever owns this thing. Now listen, your response from your people is this is fine and acceptable. It is not to us. Would you care to comment?
So it's Time Warner or Fairpoint and
Fairpoint
Yeah.
and,
Yeah, if we're gonna get the runaround from the branches, let's go to the is this how you yeah, that's
that's
Yeah.
just one example.
that's
Oh, no, I've got
typical.
one across from me.
Typical, that's pretty typical
Yeah.
of what we have around town right now.
We need a little guardrail update there. Again, I'm not picking on anybody, Jim. There's,
I'm paying for my Lamborghini, we'll put a new guardrail.
there's some of the signs seem to be a little bit outdated. That's the
Yeah.
feedback I got. And
well, we know about this
Famous
one.
famous enclosure, another outdated sign, I
Yeah,
guess.
like outdated is a matter of
Yeah.
taste. I don't think we can do anything about
Right.
taste.
Well,
Well, no,
that-
go back to that one.
All right.
That actually, the vacation part is falling off. It doesn't meet our sign ordinance
Okay.
right now. If you look at the actual wording, I don't think, right, Chris? As
But
far
did it
as
meet
the-
it when it
And
was
then,
put up?
and then you have the whole ordinance, and I think what I think my point of bringing this to the attention of everybody, not just
Yeah.
the board,
Mm.
is that we have this ordinance that says that you have to maintain your property to go with the, I still don't know the word. but-
Yeah, it's gotta be within the character of the town.
Yeah, so it's so subjective. It's like, is this what we want? And I'm not saying yes, no, either way. It's just we need some direction. I think everybody
But
needs.
when we
direction.
get to this question of the ordinance, one of the dilemmas is we can't fine. We have no authority to fine someone for being in violation of that ordinance. What we can do was my understanding is about all we can do as a remedy is pay the cost ourselves to fix it and then bill them for it.
And chances are it would end up in a court battle.
Right? Am I incorrect? Can we write an ordinance that says if you violate this, you're going to get fined?
Well, go back to that sign, Tom. The sign portion is in the zoning ordinance. You can fine people under the zoning for violations of the zoning ordinance. That you have that authority as the Board of Selectmen. We can write them, we gotta give them a 30-day notice to remedy the situation. If they fail to do it, you can fine them in violation of the zoning ordinance, and you can fine them for that.
And specifically, what is in violation of the zoning ordinance there?
It's a decrepit sign. I mean,
Well,
it's-
but
it's
the
a
zoning
sign.
ordinance doesn't talk to that the sign is
the
got
sign
to
has to be maintained.
The sign has to be maintained, that, you
Okay.
can't see it very well, but the vacations
Is that
portion of that is falling off.
All right.
So, I mean, and again, that's what, part of what Chris is asking is that a violation? Because it's really your determination of whether or not that's a properly maintained sign.
Right, and I just need direction from the board is before I, what do you want to do? Type,
And a lot of this is subjective, it is,
Yeah.
it is
can I
up
make
to you.
can I make a suggestion? That you take a little bit of time, you note and contact each one of these people and ask for a written request, written response to what you would like done
Mhm.
to bring us up to community standards. Bring them in here, then we'll figure out by the responses we get from people.
Okay, just.
Yeah,
just-
but we would have to take, I think before we go that far, and it's not
Right.
that we shouldn't, as a
Right.
remedy, do what you're saying. I think we should identify them, go take a look at them, and as
Right.
selectmen, literally go on the record and say, this is or is not a violation of the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
To give him the authority then
Right.
to notify that your sign has been found in violation of the zoning ordinance.
And we'll provide a reason why.
And you have 30 days to either remedy it, or we're gonna do what? Or we're gonna issue a fine, we're gonna fine you what, $50 a day, $5 a day?
I think you can go up to-
Penalties.
As prescribed by the statute,
as
why don't we
pres-
just leave it at that?
It is.
And that at least we'll get a dialogue
It
going.
is provided by law, so I'd have to look up the law.
But-
It says subject to the maximum penalty or fine or forfeiture provided by law, and we can look those up.
Right, and if I think we use that language, at least has someone
I-
calling to see what the issue.
But just as an example, Bill, on this sign, and can you find the mountain sun?
The mountain sun. I think that's. Sorry, guys. Oh.
Right there.
Right there, okay, all of that white portion of the sign
Peeling paint.
is peeling
Yeah.
paint. And it says, our zoning ordinance says, signs shall be in good order and repair at all times so as to constitute no danger or hazard to public safety and to enhance the overall attractiveness of the town.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's the sort of thing that we gotta, is that a violation of that language?
I think we would
So-
have to go out and take a look at each one of these, and maybe if you could
Mhm.
give us a list of the, we'll start with what you think are the most egregious.
Yeah.
We'll go take a look at them. I don't know, whether we either get a little bus and go on a bus
Yeah.
tour or something, that'd be fine.
Just like
And
judging
we'll
the
vote.
Christmas decorations.
This is, they do this in Philadelphia. They have,
Guess what? You win, but you don't want to win this one.
we'll put Chief Noise in there, and we'll have the bus bust. We'll go around and we'll just hold court right in the bus.
That's fine with me.
That's it,
Is that okay?
and
Fine with me.
we'll
So we'll do
say,
that at the next meeting.
Yeah.
We'll put it on the
absolutely,
agenda.
sure.
Yeah.
Or
I
maybe
mean,
we
if
can
you-
meet an hour
yeah,
early and go on the bus.
Right.
Okay.
And give us, but I think we owe it to go out and take a look at this
Okay.
and,
Yes.
and agree
Sure.
Yeah.
that we think it is in violation of the ordinance. Right. Then we just send them a letter that you got 30 days to do it, or
You go back
Yeah,
to
I
Mountain
mean,
Brook.
yeah, go, can you,
Yeah. Oh, all right.
This is where we were.
Yeah.
All right, so go ahead. I got them to move that.
whose trailer is that?
That
the
was
telephone company?
Fairpoint's.
Fairpoint.
yeah.
I did get them to move that. So, these are, we drive by, every one of us drives by this sign probably every day, or everybody that works here does.
Yeah,
And if
half
you
a
look
place
at
out
the-
there.
You know,
Whose sign is it?
It belongs to the ski area.
Why don't we at least, do we want to wait for the study or at least ask them for a note to please remove?
Well, you take half of that sign down if you
Yeah.
remove what isn't
Well, you'd
there.
replace Blue Moon with that, latitudes with conference centers.
but again,
phase
if I'm
6.
visiting this town and I'm coming down from the mountain, I'm gonna stop and read that and say, oh, let's try Latitudes Cafe.
Yeah,
you
so
know.
or let's get something that's, yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, why don't you give them a call on that one and see, an inexpensive fix, because that might be part of the issue coming up in our town study,
Okay.
signage and all that.
All right.
But at
Now,
least,
I think I'm just on to sinkholes.
Well, this,
Delete that because that was fixed this morning.
Good.
Just, I guess somebody walking to the beach saw the
raft.
the groomer and the raft kind of
Yeah.
off, and this was all after Memorial Day.
Okay.
These were taken, so
I
that
don't know
looks
what
like
that
an
is.
anchor.
that's the anchor.
Trash in the flower, in the flower pond there,
Yeah.
flower pot.
Mhm.
And that's, I think that's a case of whose job is that?
That's us.
Because everybody points their finger.
Yeah.
Town Square points a finger at us. We point the finger at Town Square.
Take the flower pot away.
Whose property is it?
It's the town's.
so
And
you
it's
got
our problem.
the kids that are
Yeah.
doing the boats.
I say, I'm not.
Just at the end of the year, we just need to pick up the flower pot when we put the boats
Right.
away and make sure it isn't there.
There's that valve that's sticking out, they could do something with that, I
They
guess. I
could
don't know.
cover it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's supposed to capture just the railing, and it looks like that's the light fixture missing a lens, just little stuff like that, I guess. That's a railing in Town Square that's held up with grade stakes.
Right here.
Those are grade
And right
stakes, and
here.
it's zip tied to the
And they're zip
railing.
tied to the railing to hold the
Now,
railing.
does it meet code? It might meet code. I mean, I got on it and I reefed on it, and it seems to have the 200 pounds that you need, but
Send it to their insurance
it's
company.
just the way. It's just the. I mean, it's the.
Yeah.
That's a hole near the pump house. That's a jagged metal thing sticking out of the ground by the pump house.
And whose land is that on?
That's Town Squares, I would assume.
Well, it's right next to the flower pot.
Oh, is it?
Well,
Well,
it's-
that's Town Squares
Yeah.
land.
So
but yeah.
so that's the thing, is nobody wants to take ownership.
Well, we
or
can-
whatever.
Yeah.
There's a culvert. I don't know who it belongs to. In
It's a Waterville company.
some hose, snowmaking hose,
Oh,
in the bushes by the ice.
that's how it
arena.
ended up there. I'm like, when did you test hose out
You
there?
know, just that electrical pedestal. It's got wires hanging off it. I mean, I'm sure they're safe,
But whose is
just
that?
they look- I think
It's on WCI land,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it
I
probably
think the ice arena
belongs to
pays the
the.
bill because
Yeah.
the power comes from the ice arena.
Yeah.
It's on Waterville
WCI.
Company land,
Oh.
and
It
It belongs to the
Shakespeare
resort.
uses the power, and everybody.
is
If
this
they
the
have a
pub?
wedding out there, they
Yeah.
use the power there. You know,
Okay.
it's a,
They
like
put
a,
up
We use it.
they have the tent
The rec
sales in
uses it.
October,
Yeah.
they use
Yeah.
that.
The rec
yeah.
uses
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
every
so
day.
it's so it's.
But it's
you know, who do-
WCI's. They need to fix it. I work for WCI, but it's theirs. They need to. It's not quite.
Because I mean, they could put a little nice little,
Yeah.
you know, like a kiosk type thing there. That's our dry hydrant that just looks like. I mean, we could probably do better than the
I've got some
linear
golf head
posts.
covers.
Somewhat.
Golf head covers.
Yeah. That's the Shakespeare tent that's right by
Right.
the bike path.
Yeah.
It's a grill that's
The ones they set up on the bank there. They're
that
still up.
nobody uses now, and they're starting to rust out.
Talk to Town Square.
It's just
Are they town squares or ours?
They're Town Squares.
it's one of our hydrants that has the telephone poles that are rotten, or not rotten, but you know. I
Well-
mean, is this stuff we want
Right.
to fix? You know, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I think you know, it's just my personal opinion that we do a disservice allowing the town to run down.
Right.
It's
That's kinda my
the
point.
more you do it, the more it happens. And at some point in time, if we've got the authority to act, but I'll give you a perfect example. I mean, the house, the little red house.
They said
Didn't he come back and say he was going to submit a plan?
He did.
Did he submit a plan?
No.
but send them a follow-up.
What have we
letter.
done? Nothing. So at this stage, what can we do? He has not sent a
I
plan,
think
has
he
not
had
done a
until
thing.
last fall or something to do it.
Right.
and-
Yeah,
So
but
the
he's-
operative
So-
word is last.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he didn't do what
Right.
we said it to do.
Yeah.
What's our next step? We have to do the work?
We have to give him that 30-day notice, and then if he doesn't do it,
Well, we're on this. We've already gone down this path with this person. Why don't we make a motion and send them a 30-day notice and see what we get for a response?
I'm fine
And
with
what's the
that.
30-day notice going to say?
The 30-day notice says that you have to remedy you agreed to submit a plan, you did not. You have 30 days to bring this property to the standards of the community per the, zoning ordinance. And if you fail to do that, there are provisions for,
Can you,
Levying a
before we
fine.
send the letter out, would you find out what the provisions are? What, in this
Oh,
case,
the-
what would
the
we do?
fining
Fine him $5 a day, $10 a day?
think it's up to
I
100.
think it's up to $100.
Okay, well, just so we have some
But yeah.
clarity, and,
Yeah.
and we should then vote
Yeah.
on what the fine is gonna be. Who determines the fine, the Board of Selectmen
Mhm. You're the
or the
enforcement.
officer?
No, you're.
It would be us.
Mhm.
Give us a recommendation, what you think would be the appropriate fine, and we will send a letter to the guy saying, you know, we sent you a letter, you never did anything,
Right,
and, we're gonna start fining you $50 a day or something.
okay.
Get his attention.
This is the
We'll
flag.
accumulate the money and fix his property.
Right.
What do we want him to do? Fix the landscaping or fix the exterior of the building? Do we want him to paint it?
Again,
Can you
the
pull
language,
that picture up real
What
quick?
picture is this?
the red
Red
house.
house.
Well, I mean, the red house, the only thing I've heard is that the inside of it is in good shape such that we couldn't condemn it,
Right.
right?
It
That
is.
there's no water, I mean, the roofs don't leak and everything else, so you can't condemn the
Structurally
building.
sound.
What do we want them to do? Do we want them to paint it and fix the landscaping, to come up with a plan to make the building and appropriate landscaping
Yeah.
consistent
Consistent with
with the look and image of the town?
Yeah.
Failure to do so is you're gonna result in fines?
So, with that, do we go up the street to the other places too?
Let's just get this one.
This
Let's
one
do
we've already
one.
had the dialogue
Let's
started.
do one.
Yeah.
I mean, this one we already started, we've
Yeah.
done nothing, so let's do something. Let's,
You want to vote
So
to make it a
determine-
$50 a day fine?
well, I don't know. I don't know what the fine is. I don't know what we're allowed to fine.
I don't know
Oh,
off
okay.
the top of my head the daily fine.
I think it's up to 100, but
I would say, personally, I think we should start out with a number like $25 a day,
Mm-hmm.
and say that we're going, failure to act here is going to cause us to revisit this and to escalate the fine.
Well, what I would suggest is we don't include the number of what the fine is going to be in this letter. That we're
Right, first letter, right.
That we're going to take actions, which may include a fine, and then if we get nothing or he says I'm not doing anything, then we levy a fine and send him another
The
letter.
grounds, the ordinance, the grounds and exterior appearance of buildings and landscaping shall be maintained in conformance with the general standards of the community.
All right. And
That's the
can we
language.
vote that this property, I'm going to make a motion. What is this property? Who owns it?
The Winans.
The Wyman's property on what road?
Boulder
On
Path.
Boulder Path.
Boulder Path Road is not in conformance, either the building or grounds is conformance with the general appearance of the town and is in violation of the town's zoning ordinance.
Okay.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
All right? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we've told them now, so
Good.
we're gonna ask
Right.
you that say that the Board of Selectmen have voted that your town is not in compliance with the zoning ordinance. And you agreed to do a plan, which we have not seen. And so we would respond immediately, or at the next meeting, we will intend to enforce
Those
our,
are-
whatever it is, we'll notify you what the other remedies are, period.
Okay.
I mean, this house has been like that for umpteen years,
A
right?
long time.
Hollingsworth property is not far behind it, right? Now Lawrence's got torn down, right?
No, it's for sale.
Oh, it's
No,
for sale.
Now,
Well, at least he's taken action.
this is just the flagpole in Town Square, and it's the day or two after Memorial Day, and there's no flag up. Just one of those things that
Yeah.
people notice. This was after Memorial Day.
Yeah,
I don't know whose kayak that is. But that is.
I'll bet I know. But go ahead.
Right. Like I say, I'm not picking on anybody.
Well, it's not mine.
No.
It's not my kayak.
It's the
Well,
guy-
Right,
he's the
these
guy
we're
who
gonna go
wanted the
around it,
story.
and
Yeah,
for
we're
the
gonna
next
go around
meeting,
and look at
Chris,
the sound.
find the examples of the 5 most egregious, and we'll go take a
Okay.
ride on the bus,
Right.
and we'll condemn them all, or something, or we'll make a decision on each one of them.
Now this, I don't know if you can see it, but I have no idea what that is.
I can't.
That is ours, that is the town.
What is it
of
we're looking
Waterville
at? It
Valley.
looks like a stop sign.
This
No.
right here, I have no idea what this is.
There used to be a sign there. This is where the little shack used to be. I guess it was an ice cream place or something.
Oh, this is by Tours.
Right by Tours,
Yeah.
across
Yeah.
the street from Tours. There was a flower box in there. That went away 2 or 3 years ago at least.
And
then
whose
there was
sign, and whose sign is it?
It's not a sign,
It's
it's
not
just
a
a
sign.
structure.
Well, there may be a sign there today because that is where Theater Under the
Shakespeare in the
Stars.
Valley
Shakespeare
hangs
in the
something
Valley
underneath
hangs
it.
something underneath it.
Yeah.
So, if they don't put their sign back on it, we could take it down, but I would ask that we would leave it up if they do hang their sign on it.
That is starting
Is,
to come
well,
apart.
can I go back, are you okay with that? If there is a,
Put it on the list, we'll go around, and we'll
Oh.
take it down? No, why do we have an ugly structure? I mean, it's an interesting question. Is it private property?
No, it's
uh,
who's.
the right of way, it's probably right on the edge of the right of way.
I mean, as long as it's not a sign, is the structure in conformance with the code? It may be.
That's right, it's not a sign.
It's not a sign.
It's not a
It's
sign.
just a thing.
Right.
It's an old flower box that the flower box part
Right,
came
and
off.
to be quite truthful, that's part of the problem, because I have no idea whose property
Right.
that's on. None whatsoever.
Well, we would have,
No.
if it's private property, we would have to, you know.
I think when we told Shakespeare in the Valley they could put their sign up there, I think we went through some kind of process and said, oh, it's our structure, we own it, so you can
Yes.
hang a sign on our
That's
structure.
that's correct.
Yeah,
It's debilitating.
yeah,
you
so
know.
it
I
is
know we
ours.
mow it, but
And we actually, believe it or not, improved the look of that thing because it was worse before. I think we actually painted it once.
Wall's coming
Told
apart.
you, and that is-
That's something I can deal with, that's Valley Inn.
That's the Valley Inn.
Looking to your left going down the hill.
Yeah.
And actually, that's already fallen once in the last 5
It's
years.
back at Town Square down
Yeah,
below.
this is behind Town Square, just,
Behind the pizza place.
I mean, that's one of the main ways into Town Square, one of the 3 main ways in, so people are walking, seeing that. That's a barricade that public safety put up to keep people from going behind the ice arena. That represents the parking lot that is just covered in sand, wasn't swept, and this is after Memorial Day. Just the parking lot itself, no nothing to delineate parking.
I don't know if you noticed, but they've also cut some trees down. Some of them probably needed to be cut down.
There
But
was
the trees are becoming more and more scarce in all of these parking lots.
Well, we've gone through this thing again of trees. That in the state of New Hampshire, we have the right to cut your tree down law. We cannot stop somebody from cutting trees down on their own property.
Except, Bill, those trees were approved as part of a site plan way back when.
If.
And, well, there was a landscape plan for the islands on those, in all of those parking lots. Now, there have been votes since then from the Board of Selectmen where you allowed them to remove some of the islands, but now things are just kind of like happening. You know, so I agree on private property, we are limited in what we can prevent them from cutting, but in a commercial setting like this, if they've changed this, if the planning board were to find that there was or the Board of Selectmen were to find that there was a change in the site plan without them coming in and
I
asking.
think that, I think, and I don't want to shove something back on the planning board, but I think we ought to go back, to the planning board to ask them to review the zoning ordinances
Mhm.
and site plan review regulations regarding can someone, if, for example, at some point in time, they approve a particular house, let's take a single-family house. They
Yeah.
approve the construction of a single-family home, and now, because the ordinance now reads, there's a building envelope that has to be defined. I think they changed that, right? Well, anyway.
Yeah.
But the
yeah.
problem becomes, is as part of the plan you present, you show this area is wooded. 10 years later, can you cut those woods down? I'd ask him that question.
Okay.
If not, and who, I at least ask him an opinion.
Right.
What does
Yeah,
the ordinance allow or not allow?
Use my property as an example because I have some trees that died and I cut them down.
Well, I mean, dead trees, I
Yeah, but-
assume you're allowed to cut dead trees down, but.
Well, I think it's totally different between the private, and I think what I would do is ask town council the difference between site plan approval with a landscape plan
Right.
and a private parcel in a subdivision.
Well,
Because I think
if you
they're
want to start with town, but we've had this running argument with Cantlin regarding, my wife, for instance, says Cantlin promised that he was going to along the old, what is that, 8th Green over there, put all these shrubs and everything else in.
Right.
And they die. Does he have to do them again?
Right,
Right, there's nothing that says
It's
they have to be
unclear.
maintained for a certain
I
amount of
don't
time.
know.
right.
So I'd ask the planning board, what do they want? We can enforce this, but I don't know what to enforce,
Okay.
and I think they ought to clarify their own language. Get some clarity around what do we, I don't think we're in the business of telling people they can't change their landscaping, or that to change their landscaping, they need approval from the town. But maybe that's what they want.
Well, but I don't, and I agree that on private property, that's correct, but I'm not sure in a commercial setting that that's correct.
Well, commercial's private.
No, because
Commercial's not private?
commercial's private, but commercial properties here in town have to go through a site plan approval process that a
Right.
private owner
Right.
does not have to do. Chris is once a subdivision is approved, Chris has authority on each of those individual lots as the code enforcement officer for the buildings,
Right.
okay? That's not the case in a commercial. The planning board sets how that looks. They approve a plan for that.
Yeah, but
And I'm not
it's
sure they don't have to
unclear
come in.
because they've gotten into this, how long is that for? Does that mean it can't
That's
be
right,
altered?
and I think those are the answers.
And
I guess the point of these are sandy parking lots, sidewalks.
yeah.
It's a sandy park. Yeah, sandy park.
Well, can you go back to the sidewalk for just a second? Now, here's an area that we tried to grass.
Yeah.
As you can see, nobody can drive on the pavement around here. They drive and rut up, and they destroyed the grass.
Yep.
So there's nothing to maintain.
Somebody's stealing our hook
In,
and ladder.
in some cases,
He brought a film to distract us.
Jim's gone in and put rocks in,
Yeah.
and riprap and that kind of stuff. We get a lot of erosion in these areas. You
Yeah.
can see the edge of the road up there.
That's our
where it's
property?
eroding. That's town property.
Fix it, or you're gonna be held in violation.
Well, and we can fix
like
it,
I say,
Well, I mean,
Is this-
this is town property, and I don't wanna make light of this. If the things you've tried don't work, then come up with another
Okay.
plan. If you gotta put a stone wall, if you gotta do something,
Okay.
do it. Come
Good.
up with an
Yeah,
alternative
and we
suggestion
will.
of how to fix it.
Okay.
And we'll get it into the
You might have
CIP
to,
at some
you might have to
point.
sod the whole thing and
Right.
try it. No,
But what happens
that
in the
might be
winter,
realistic.
it becomes unclear where the edge is and people just drive over
Right.
everything.
And in the spring,
The
yeah,
spring,
they
because,
just, they
you know-
just trash it and
cobblestones.
Is this the area down below
It's on
the
Village
Silver
Road.
Fox?
no, it's right
behind
beside.
Black Bear.
Well, it's the same
could
as
be.
that.
Yeah.
It's the same
Yeah,
as
I
that.
That's
get it.
not. That's
Any of these places
beside
you
town
can-
square going to the golf
Okay.
course.
Oh,
Well,
okay,
All
that's
right.
what
I
hopefully-
like the slideshow.
Yeah.
For the next meeting, in the interest of time here, it's
Yeah,
5 o'clock.
sorry.
Right.
you pick the 5 most egregious things. We'll start with those 5,
Right. Okay.
and we'll take some concrete action,
Good.
right?
Great.
Great.
As to what to do with them.
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds like a TV show, the 5 most egregious
It
things.
could be. We could invite guests to come along with
And
us.
see what, if it's really egregious to them or not.
Right, and they're welcome to
oh,
comment.
All right, play the
And,
game. How much does this bother you?
If you wanna come up for a hamburger or a hot dog.
That's
after the
tonight.
meeting, Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
everybody.
Can I
Thanks.
send my wife over?
Sure.
All right. I don't have to make supper now.
Okay. Is Bill coming back?
I don't know, let me call him.
Can I ask you a question? Why is Bill Cantlin seeing us about a possible lot line adjustment?
Over here.
He wants to swap land with
He wants to
us.
swap land with the town.
Okay,
Yes.
so he wants to talk to us about a land swap.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lot line adjustment. land
Well,
swap.
because the
Yes,
lot
I'm
line
sorry,
adjustment
yes.
has to go to the planning
Right.
board. Right, okay. Possible land swap. Well, let's
And
move on.
If we're agreeable to this, what he'd then have to do is go to
Yes.
the planning board.
Right,
Is that
and get
Yes.
permit, yeah, have to. get
Hey, are you
lot
coming
line.
back? All right.
Oh, he's playing.
No,
golf.
this is at the selectmen's meeting, you know. This is at the selectmen's meeting. Oh, okay. Talk to you later.
Right.
Okay, bye.
Right. Do you know
He'll be
what
back
he
in
wants
2
to
weeks.
do?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Right. And does this make sense?
Yeah. I don't understand the second part of it, but the first part of it does.
The swapping the land, Mark, from your perspective, you'd recommend it?
I think he didn't
In the
show
interest
me
of the
exactly.
town.
Well, he's,
In the interest of
Yeah.
the town, I believe that what he wants to do is beneficial, yes.
Okay.
There's a green belt.
it's a simple
piece.
thing. He owns a piece of our driveway. And he wants to give that back and take a piece of the front to extend his front
Well,
out.
he didn't show me what part he wants in the front.
Actually,
Where- and where is this
I've got a
property?
drawing. I actually have a drawing here because I saw him a while ago and I asked him to draw it for me.
Where is the property?
Over by where the Dave Gaudioso Memorial storage unit is.
Right over here.
Oh, is this the place that we had the discussion about electrifying? Is that the reason
Okay.
he's going after this?
Now, I think what happens is he owns out into the road here a little bit as it comes by, and the town owns a buffer across the front here. He wants to trade this for that. Oh, it's this way. He wants to trade the side. I'm sure he'll come in 2 weeks and show us.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is this
I'd like to see.
the purview of the selectmen or of
It-
the planning board?
He needs to come in and get your okay to go to the planning board to do a.
Not the lot line adjustment, but if we agree to the land swap, does the planning board get input at all as to whether they think they recommend doing the land swap?
Yes, they do.
They do.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I think he's just trying to get a sense
Whether we want to do
Oh,
it or
whether
not.
where
or
we
not
are, not
you
before
guys
he
wanna
goes
do
to
that,
all the
before
work that
he
has to
goes-
be
Right.
done
That's
to
right.
go
He's
to
got to
the
get it
planning board.
surveyed. He's got to
See, I have to go take a look. Is because what I find in the past is these little swaps end up now all of a sudden you can subdivide the lot or you can do something else with it because he's got a 1/100th of an acre addition and he's got a non-conforming lot or something.
Yes.
Well,
And-
there was something when he wanted to put electricity in there. That's what
Yes.
I'm
There's-
remembering.
there
What
are
was that
Well,
about?
and this is primarily about setbacks, so that it
Setbacks.
becomes developable more.
Right.
Developable. I don't think it's going to put him over a particular threshold, but it is going to give him the feet that he needs to do setbacks so that he can build more stuff on the lot. Because remember, a lot of that lot is within 250 feet
Of the
of
road.
the river.
Yeah.
And the
The
river.
river.
And you know, is
So he
subject to
can't
the
build
shoreline
down to the
protection.
river.
So he can't
Yeah.
go that way, so he needs to come into our lot in order to, and then he's got
I think I
setback
would
requirements.
take I think I would take this. Well, someone has got to understand. He's got to take a look at those issues relative to this swap.
Mhm.
And could we recommend that that he go and consult the planning board? Not that he actually go in and draw up the documents, but they go in and, make this proposal to the planning board and see if the planning board would come up with a recommendation as to whether they think it's in the interest of the town to facilitate this land swap?
Sure, I guess he can.
No,
I think
could
he was
we,
doing
could
it
we
the other way.
recommend,
He wanted to do it the other way.
right,
He
he
wanted
wants
to
us
come
to,
in to see
because
if
we're
you
not gonna
were
be as thorough.
amenable. Well, yeah, but you're not approving anything.
Yeah.
All he's getting from you is a sense of whether or not you want to do this. Then he's going to the planning board and we'll have to go through the whole process and get approval from them.
all right,
You're both gonna get input, the planning board and,
Again, there was some reason.
yeah, but we can do a land swap without, and the plan, my understanding is we could sit and sign a contract with them to do a land swap right now. We don't need planning board review, approval, or anything. To get the lot line adjustment, he has to go to the planning board.
See, he's
But
talking
not
about a
to
lot
do the
line
land
adjustment.
Land swap.
The word is that he came to me as a lot line adjustment is what he wants.
This is a lot line adjustment, it has the same effect
As a land swap.
Land swap, but it is a lot line adjustment.
Have him come and see us at
Yes.
the next meeting, okay. We've already talked about the water and sewer projects. Now, signs. With the last meeting, we were talking about non-conforming real estate signs.
Mhm.
Chris ran away? Is he still here?
No, he's
No,
not.
that's all right. What does the ordinance, do we have a clarity about what does the ordinance say relative to signs? Are you allowed to have, which we know you are not allowed to have a for sale sign,
That's correct.
right, Margaret?
Right, I know that. Open house is all right.
Open
but
house
no
is
for
allowed,
sale
and
signs.
you can only have it, but we've got a case of somebody over, apparently has got a for sale, equivalent to a for sale sign.
There are a couple of them.
A couple of them been sitting
There
there
are two.
for
Yeah.
6 months, 9 months.
Well, there's two signs on one lot and there's one sign on two other lots.
All right.
Okay.
What
So-
does the ordinance say or not say? This is in, first of all, this
Real-
is in the zoning?
This is in the zoning
Zoning,
ordinance.
okay.
Yeah. Except as described below, individual, residential, commercial, or condominium properties may not erect or display individual signs for the purpose of advertising for sale, lease, or rent any property. And then there is that's under real estate signs. It then says new development signs. As new developments are started, developers may wish to erect signage to promote the new properties. One new development sign is authorized for the entire subdivision, condominium, or other development being advertised. A new development sign must be applied for and approved by the selectmen each calendar year in accordance with paragraph K3 above. Permit fees will be per the fee schedule adopted. New development sign will have maximum dimensions of not more than 3 feet by 3 feet. The top of the sign will not be more than 6
Okay,
feet
I
above
don't need
grade.
that. I'm assuming these signs from that standpoint conform, but
Then the last paragraph says, a new development sign may be erected from approval of the project and be maintained until the issuance of the first certificate of occupancy by the code enforcement office or the completion of the subdivider improvement agreement.
all right. Now, where are these three signs?
You've got one at Green Peak,
You got one at Green Peak.
All right.
one
We've got
at the lot that is the old seventh hole on the golf course, and I think
You
there's
have two on that
there are
lot.
two on that lot. One
There
from
are
is
two
there
on-
one on the other side?
There's one
There are
on.
two on that, and I think there's another one up.
How
at Bob
long has the
Wise
seventh
Boulevard.
hole lot sign been up?
It's over a year.
It's been
All right.
easily almost 2 years.
So let's start with Green Peak. So I
Yes.
think we should send I'll make I'm gonna do this again in the form,
Yep.
we'll talk about it. We should send a letter to Bobby Wild saying he's gotta take the sign down.
Okay.
No, you're only authorized to have that until the first certificate of occupancy has been, and it's been issued.
Right.
The second one.
Before we get
Oh,
off
wait a minute.
Bob, doesn't he have another development
There's
coming?
the other development is at BBTS. We have issued a CO on that house. And he still has his sign just like Green Peak.
Okay,
He's got a very similar sign at the 2-lot subdivision there above BBTS.
Yeah, okay, but what I was asking about, isn't there a second Green Peak thing? Or hasn't that been
No.
approved
No,
yet?
it has not
they
been
withdrew it.
approved.
Okay,
Yeah.
he withdrew it.
Yeah, he is not, they are not
Yeah.
building second
Well, it
phase two.
seems to me we ought to send him a letter saying, you got your certificate
Of
of occupancy, you need to
both
take the
signs must be
down.
removed.
Okay. And then the
Seventh Green.
Seventh Green.
We ought to say to the effect that, I assume we approve these.
Yes, well, no, you assume,
The two
you
signs that are
approved-
there now, did we approve those
You
signs?
approved one of them.
All right. Relative to both signs, I think we ought to send a letter to Mr. Cantlin saying that we did approve that. But those sign approvals are a 1-year period only, your year is expired, remove them.
All right, let me
Well,
cloud the water up a little bit because I can't vote on this. But the issue on granting these signs, I don't think that lot on the 7th hole was there was a plan for a development or a plan for a house. I think, I don't know how that got approved or why it got approved, but that was in a sense putting up a for sale sign on a lot like this other one that the Fordons are asking for.
That's correct.
So I don't think the year thing has anything to do with that one. I think that one has to be removed.
Because
I
it's a
think
for
Just-
sale
just
sign.
because it's a for sale sign.
Yeah.
And I think also
But
the new development
Right.
signs are by subdivision. So now that Moose Run, we have houses on Moose Run, that lot, individual lot, is not, I don't think,
Right.
is
No.
allowed to have
I'd
a
call
sign.
Bill and tell him he's gonna have to remove those signs.
See,
He's
I-
in numerous violations,
Right. See,
and
I've-
multiple violations of the
Are
zoning
both of
ordinance.
those his?
Both signs
Sign.
are.
Yeah.
Right.
See, I thought
And you can point these out to him, and if he disagrees, tell him, come see us.
from our last meeting, we were gonna have a meeting with these builders and developers and discuss this. Because we have to set up a criteria, because I don't think, this is my own personal thought, is that I don't think we want to be so stringent that we can't allow someone to advertise a new development, if it is actually a new development. Meaning there's a gray area here with the Green Peak because they withdrew their application. So I think the Green Peak one is out, but if someone wants to build and is building phases, I think we as a community want to let people know there's going to be something there. I don't know where we want to be, and I think we have to give some thought and discussion to where we want to be if a builder takes an option on a lot, and he wants to build a lot and advertise that he's willing to build there. Is that different than for the person just trying to sell the raw lot to somebody? That's just a question I don't have the answer for today. But I think it's a different classification that if a builder is buying the lot to build to suit or something like that. That's the issue with Wilds' other place on the camp behind the campus of BBTS, where he has the first house for sale, but he has a second lot that he's trying to sell up there. I don't know where that gray area comes in because I wasn't party to the issuing of these this. So I'm just saying there's some gray to this.
Well,
Yeah, but
yes.
what the problem is I'm listening to the zoning ordinance. There's no gray in the zoning ordinance. It's
No,
quite
but-
clear. Now, I agree with you that maybe the planning board ought to think about possibly changing the zoning
Yeah.
ordinance to allow more flexibility, but it doesn't allow any now.
No, I understand.
Yeah,
That's
I mean-
that's exactly the point I'm making, Bill.
Yeah, okay.
Is that we just have to do this. Because I don't think we can let people, if you own a lot of land and you want to sell it, have someone put a sign on it. But if a builder, so we have to look at the whole issue.
What we apparently have now is a law that says if you're a builder and you're gonna put up a development, you can put up a sign that advertises a new development until the first unit is approved. If
Not-
you're an individual homeowner, you can't put a sign up, period.
Well,
See,
not
I didn't see
exactly.
what you said.
So,
I don't think your first part was right.
well, yes, the
Yeah.
first part is right.
Really?
If you have
Yeah.
a subdivision,
You're
which
right.
the Moose Run subdivision had 32 lots.
Okay.
He could have put up a sign.
He could have
that-
put one sign
that
Okay,
says
all right.
Moose Run coming.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Once he either finished the subdivider improvement agreement, which is the roads and the
Right.
sewer and all that, either that happened or he got a CO for the first
Okay.
house in Moose Run, then that sign has to come down, right, Bill?
I
That's
think
what
that
this
would be
says.
my interpretation
Right.
of what that says.
Now,
yeah.
what the Board of Selectmen have allowed is a builder, okay, when he has a building permit, in order to get his supplies dropped off and all
Right.
that, he can put a sign no bigger than 3 by 5 at the building site while he has a working building permit, okay?
Yeah.
And if the realtor, because Waterville Company
Right.
came in and asked, while that building is going on, if the builder is willing to share that 3 by 5 space with a realtor, then they can say, being offered by Waterville Realty
Yeah.
or whatever. But as soon as that CO is done and the building
Right, no,
permit is done, that sign comes down.
See, that's where my
That's-
gray area comes in with the builder, because anyone could have a lot and say, "Oh, I'm working with this builder," and we can put a sign on it.
But only if they have a building permit.
Well,
And that's what happened with this one, when the building permit ended.
Got issued.
so
okay.
was there a building permit on the seventh hole?
There was
Yeah.
for the first lot.
No, the seventh hole is only one lot.
No, there's 2 lots now.
On the
There's
seventh.
on the 7th hole, on where the old Bull
Right,
Hill
okay.
gazebo used to be.
So there was a
There's
permit
2
pulled.
lots. There was a permit
Okay, gotcha.
pulled,
That's
but
where
it-
that's
but
where
it
I'm
went
confused.
away.
Okay.
They ended up
So-
not doing it.
All right. So our criteria, I think we're clear with what we need to do.
I think so. I think we need to tell
So
them to
the
get
2
these signs
signs
up.
need to come down.
Right.
Or,
Hey,
or the abode signs need to come down on both lots, right? The BBTS lot and Green Peak. And the 2 signs on
Right,
Moose Run need to come
to
down.
come down.
Right.
Okay.
All right,
And the people that would like to put up additional signs, the
No.
answer is no,
Okay.
right?
That's
town
correct.
website update?
We are in the content development phase. I've reached out to departments, committees, and
Okay.
boards to work with them to get that
And
content.
when do you think that you'll launch this thing?
There's a target date of mid-August at this point.
Okay,
But I wanted to reach out
sure.
to you folks as well, because the Board of Selectmen will have a page on the site at this point.
Okay.
So I would potentially seek content from you. Anything
Sure.
that you'd like to share, a mission about the board, statement, facts about you,
Do you want your photos on there? Do you,
No.
so, I mean, some towns have their boards on there, so. it's
No,
up to
but
you,
we ought to, and remind me, we'll try to write I'll try to draft a little blurb.
Okay,
What is the role of the Board of Selectmen, and
Mhm.
what do we do, and when do we meet, and da-da-da.
And
Is there a provision on here to be able to ask the Board of Selectmen a question?
It'll be part of the contact us information.
Okay,
Absolutely.
all right, so.
can I also recommend, Tom, we're changing email, the way we do emails. I would recommend that you each have
Yes.
a town
email.
email.
Okay,
that is somehow run through, is web-based, so that your personal computer does not have town business on it, because your personal computers
fire,
right
yeah.
now are subject to subpoena. If anybody were to sue the town, as an
Yeah.
example, and I don't want your personal
All right,
stuff.
whatever. you
Probably
guys
subject to it regardless, but, yeah.
Well, if it's web-based, I think we have
So like
less to
doing like
worry about.
Thunderbird?
So,
What's that?
Is that doing like Thunderbird?
No, that would be like using a web browser to log into
Right.
the Brave Host portal to access the mail, and
Mail.
not actually using an email client
Right.
like Thunderbird.
Right.
It would be the opposite of that.
Okay, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay,
okay.
mid-August.
So we'll be working.
And I'll have to work on, yeah, I think we need to add, what's the role of the Board of Selectmen, how
Right.
often do we meet?
No,
you know?
absolutely, yeah. I
What
welcome
kinds of
that information.
issues might you bring forward?
Sure.
Know your selectmen.
No, you're so.
Right.
I'll skip the recycling if that's all right.
Okay.
In time. I do have a couple more things. Bill Brock's called and we
Yeah.
talked. He is interested
Okay,
in potential land swaps or whatever.
okay.
I just need to know like how do you wanna
I think, my recommendation, I think we ought to, do you have somebody in the Forest Service that, you know?
Mhm.
I think we ought to contact the Forest Service and say, hey, look, we've got this chunk of land sitting down here. We think it wouldn't make any sense. Is the Forest Service have any interest possibly about exploring the possibility of swap of that land for land that's adjacent to town someplace?
Okay.
And because they're liable to say, there's no way, forget it. Or they'll say, yeah, hey, And then we got to get, at some point, ideally, the Brocks and them. That may not work, but
We're making
we
the
need
effort.
someone to make an effort on their behalf, right?
Okay.
But let's start with contact the Forest Service and ask them.
Okay.
And what do the Brocks get out of this exactly?
Oh, they would own the land.
They don't know land.
They don't
I'm
land
just-
up here?
Right, if we could get it swapped, they would be the new owner of the swapped land. The town potentially gets a higher rateable piece of land, because if we can get land adjacent to the town,
It can be developed.
it can be developed, and then the tax rate goes way up compared to the tax rate down there along the river.
And we
But
don't,
the question is in the Forest Service, I don't know whether they have any interest in that property or not.
Okay.
Find out. It's about 100 acres.
100 acres.
Yeah, they may.
Yep.
And the usual thing, Forest said, well, we'll offer you a quarter of an acre
Yeah, exactly.
on the corner.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then the final thing I have is on August 23rd,
yeah.
we're gonna have a craft beer 5K festival. It's being coordinated by the ski area.
A craft beer.
Craft beer 5K festival.
What do you have to
Saturday.
drink craft beer and then go run 5K?
No,
Yeah,
the
there's
other
a-
way around.
there's
Run
only
5K
one bathroom
then-
and it's on the Brox's property.
No, it's the other way around.
Can you go have 5 beers and see if you can go 5K without peeing?
Right.
Something like that?
Close.
Okay.
It's a 5K race and then a beer festival.
Right.
It'll
Okay.
be on Packard's Field.
Yeah, the concern, I spoke to her today
Yeah.
because she wanted a backup plan is if Packersfield is going to be flooded, could they move it possibly over to the old Sixth Hole?
Yeah.
And the only concern I have is the person who's sponsoring this has insurance, but enough insurance to cover everybody.
Yeah, they will indemnify the town
Right.
and yeah.
Okay.
They
So,
be
what
ready
do we need
because
authority
he
to
has
use?
800 people coming to Portland, Maine next weekend, and he has
All right.
over 800 signed up for Stowe.
A craft beer
So-
festival could be a
Yeah.
big deal. I
Well-
don't have any problem with
well-
it. Do we need to give
No,
them
there's
authorization
no
to use the land?
no. Can I offer some town services? Do we have to bill him for everything?
Well, if he's going to have 800 people, he certainly will have the money. Plus, he's going to have the beer revenue. So,
Well, we're already going to be charging him for each of the vendors,
and how
and
much
I
is
think
that?
it's like $25 a vendor.
So if they're
And then, but we do have public safety
what I would
costs and stuff. Are
What I
you
would be-
interested in subsidizing this at all?
what I would be willing to do is to subsidize them to the effect of whatever fees we collect from the
Right.
vendors we'll give to
What
them.
does the Resort
Or- or
Association think of this?
They don't know about it. It just happened today.
I'd go back to the Resort Association and ask them, do they think this is a good idea?
Okay.
And if they, do they see this as something that's got some potential value or whatever? It's like everything. If my reaction to these is anything that can bring some business in here is something we should be encouraging. But that's really the resort association.
No, I understand. This is the first I heard of it was
Yeah.
once you called me today.
Okay.
I don't see a problem with it. I do
Neither
have
do
a
I.
couple of questions with it. According to when I spoke to Elizabeth, they have a few weddings booked that day.
He's done by the time the wedding.
Yeah,
before the
but
wedding.
my question is, if you're going to have 800 people here, where are they going to park?
He's supposedly working that out with her.
But there is no parking over the side of Packers Field.
No, my understanding was that they were going to park in the parking lots for Town Square and for parking lot across from the conference center, or some combination of.
Oh no,
the two.
I've got that. I'm just
And
saying.
then we told him to go to Golden Eagle and talk to them about use of their parking lots.
All right, fine.
It's
As
up
long
to
as
him.
we're indemnified and everything's going to be fine, let's try anything.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think we ought to get the resort association up to speed and make sure
Yeah.
they think it's a good idea.
Okay.
If I were a business owner here, I think
Unless I was selling beer.
oh.
Well, they're only getting this much beer at a
Yeah,
time.
but if you do it at 50 different places,
Well, 20
yeah,
beer guys.
let's make sure they have enough porta potties.
And our food vendors here, he is going to have up to 5 food vendors, and our food vendors are going to get first right of refusal. So if
Fine.
they want to
Yep.
provide the food,
Okay.
they're going to
Yep.
get a chance to.
All right.
Okay, that's all I have before.
Can we, in the
Do the
interest of
calendar.
time, can we take a look at, we'll table the discussion on solid waste and recycling?
Yes.
Or is there something you need to bring up
No,
today?
I don't think there's anything. I'm working, as I put in the memo.
Okay,
I'm working
right.
on it.
Sounded like it was a
Yeah.
work in process,
Yeah.
okay? Calendars, so we ought to be clear about dates and stuff here?
You want to talk about what our meetings were for the
When
summer?
is the
or-
next meeting?
Well, that's the question. What is the next meeting, and what are we going to do in July and August? Those are the questions I have.
Well,
The next meeting looks like it will be.
Well, the next meeting would be a week from today. Or do you want to have it on the 18th?
Doesn't matter to me. I mean, let
For me
just-
personally, I'd rather have it on the 18th because I won't be here on the 25th.
So you want to move a meeting to the 18th and possibly cancel the one on the 25th?
Yes.
Does it make sense to you, Maya? I don't have a problem with
I
that.
don't have
No,
a
I
problem.
don't.
So the 18th is Wednesday, and we'll do that at 3 o'clock.
Right. And tentatively, we'll cancel the one on the 25th. Okay. All right.
What would you like to do in July and August?
I think grilling is good. You can get outside.
So we would have a meeting on the 25th. Selectmen's meeting would be on the 9th. Well, why don't we plan on holding the one on the 9th? My suggestion, and then we'll make a decision then about the 23rd.
Yeah,
Okay.
that works.
But otherwise, you're into July 4th on the 2nd. I don't know about holding one on July 2nd or anything like that. So I would say that we would hold one on the 18th, then go to the 9th, and
Yeah.
then we'll make a decision relative to the
Okay.
23rd.
That works for me.
Good.
Okay.
All right. And then I told you the rec, as far as the calendar goes, I told you the rec department's schedule here start up on the 23rd
Right.
of June. She'll be going through the week of the 18th of August, so the 22nd will be the end of all of the summer
Right.
camps. That following week is our field trip week,
Yeah.
and
Right.
they'll be running through 7 days a week through Columbus Day.
You also sent in the information that came out, the notification, which is now, pretty much all over the place,
Mhm.
that about Rachel's potential leaving.
Yep.
The one thing, and I think it's something you do need to talk about that,
Mhm.
but the one thing that threw me a little bit about, you said, well, to discuss anything, we by law have to have Rachel here. What law are we talking about that in terms of we would have to have?
Well, if you're going to talk about a town employee and you want to do it in non-public, you have to tell the employee that you want to do it in non-public, and they have the right by state law to request that that be a public meeting.
That's new.
No, it's
How come we
the
didn't
way-
do it with Bill Cheney or any of these other things?
because we talked to him, because we discussed with him whether or not he was okay with us doing it the way.
Oh,
we
see, I
did.
wasn't aware of that.
But I just have not asked, I have not asked Rachel how she wants to do it. I mean, it is public knowledge now that, they're making the move, the house is on the market, so people know. But I just would say,
Okay. Gotcha. All right, so I understand kind of the ground rules. All right. Okay. Privilege of the floor. Is there anything else, Mark, at this stage we need to go over?
no, I don't, we
We've
do
got a
have the
residency,
domicile.
domicile, and well, I'd like to go into and discuss not discuss Rachel, but discuss the possible changes in the rec department, but we're not gonna discuss individuals.
No,
We're just
right.
gonna discuss organizational structure, and we should do that in non-public.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.